To commit the least possible sin is the law for man. To live without sin is the dream of an angel. Everything terrestrial is subject to sin. Sin is a gravitation, writes Victor Hugo. We approach a new stage in our exploration of angels, a phase that will take us from the esoteric wisdom of Gnosticism to the uncharted territories of the afterlife and beyond. However, it is important to take a moment to reflect on the nature of the path that lies before us. After all, as Pascal pensait, man's unhappiness springs from one thing alone, his incapacity to stay quietly in one room. And may I suggest that maybe man is incapable of having a one-on-one with himself because he is afraid of confronting his own angels and demons. Therefore, a study of angels is required because angels are a psychological reality with real-world consequences. A concept that confronts and unites billions of people. For in fact, these celestial beings reflect our deepest hopes and fears, our highest aspirations, and our most profound questions and interests. I invite you to confront the great mysteries of life and death, good and evil, spirit and matter, to gaze into the cosmos, to discover the hidden dimensions of your psyche. This demands intellect, rigor, courage, and spirit. A willingness to question everything and embrace the unknown. To look into the abyss and allow it to look back at you, in case you read Nietzsche. But you must keep the spirit of open-ended inquiry and existential fearlessness in mind. The path of angelic wisdom is not a straight line. It is a spiral, a fractal, a labyrinth, full of twists and turns, shadows and revelations. You will have to confront your own demons and angels of your psyche, and to emerge transformed by the encounter. But when Minos releases the Minotaur, the hero must listen carefully and act intelligently. So let's walk the path with humility and grace, with wonder and awe at the great mystery that surrounds us. As Plato would say, philosophy begins in wonder. And you know what's wonderful? That the unknown may be infinitely wonderful. But we must trust that the angels will guide us towards a deeper understanding of the microcosm and macrocosm of the above and below of atoms and cosmos. Most people think they will discover or acquire some kind of secret knowledge or arcane power, but that's not what happens. This is learning to see with new eyes. Marcus Aurelius and all Stoics knew it well. Everything is perception. Or as Plato would have suggested, it's something you knew when you were a child. It's something you just need to remember, to perceive the world as interconnected meanings and symbols. It is a vision of wholeness and integration that the angelic realms invite us to contemplate and eventually embrace. A vision that transcends the dualities of light and darkness, good and evil, spirit and matter. For in the end, as the great mystics have always known, these apparent opposites are but two sides of the same coin, two faces of the divine mystery that lies at the heart of all things. To have reverence and wonder, that is the motto and goal of the 21st century, to have a willingness to be transformed by the wisdom that awaits you always. Trust that you will emerge with a renewed sense of your own place between life and death, spirit and matter, time and eternity. You see, everything is a scale, and you are the agent that decides how you move between different polarities. I am Irrevelato. I illuminate the lives and stories of the world's greatest luminaries, mythic figures, and oftentimes gods. The secrets you deserve to know, the fire of Prometheus, the apple, the light, the knowledge, the wisdom, the data, the organic and artificial intelligence, the links, the doors, the keys. I give you everything. I aim to approach all matters, ideas, myths, facts, stories or theories holistically, comprehensively, exhaustively, carefully, but also with speed. Quality and quantity are both important for well-rounded, disciplined and hungry minds. Because the unexplored life is not worth living. Socrates was right with that one. The hell with complacency, laziness, incompetence, malevolence, tyranny, and abominable states of the soul. Not the hell with people, but with the behavior. You want to nurture and help people. But even for the kindest heart, there's a but. And I say this because some questionable individuals are feeding on your souls, right now, and most of you allow it every single day, and you are not even aware of it. But God doesn't play dice with the future or the universe. Oh no, not on my watch. That's why I say the hell with all vampiric demons. In case you thought I was malefic, you little NPC. But I diverged. More on that in part 3. Right now, this is part 2, and we begin with Gnosticism. If you are new here, welcome. If you've been here before, you know who I am. Please note that there are a few kinds of people that I don't like in life. Closed minds, uncivilized individuals, unprofitable personalities, corrupted and incurable souls. If you check the mark on all of these, please get off my platform. You are not welcomed here. For the rest of you, let's begin, dear friends. The Gnostic view of angels is complex and layered because it reflects the fundamental dualism that is close to its heart. In the Gnostic cosmology, spirit and matter are separate. There's a split between the transcendent god of light and the fallen, ignorant demiurge who creates the material cosmos. As Hans Jonas explains in the Gnostic religion, the cardinal feature of Gnostic thought is the radical dualism that governs the relation of God and world, and correspondingly that of man and world. The deity is absolutely transmundane, its nature alien to that of the universe, which it neither created nor governs, and to which it is the complete antithesis. To the divine realm of light, self-contained and remote, the cosmos is opposed as the realm of darkness. The world is the work of lowly powers, which though they may immediately be descended from him, do not know the true God and obstruct the knowledge of him in the cosmos over which they rule. The genesis of these lower powers, the archons, rulers, and in general that of all the orders of being outside God, including the world itself, is a main theme of Gnostic speculation. Within this dualistic framework, angels play a paradoxical role. On one hand, they are seen as emanations of the divine spiritual beings who serve as messengers and guides for the human soul in its journey back to the divine source. Gnostic texts such as the Apocryphon of John and the Sophia of Jesus Christ present elaborate hierarchies of angelic beings, each with its own name and function, corresponding to the various levels of the divine pleroma. Yet simultaneously, Gnostic angels are also intimately tied to the material world and humanity's fallen state. Many Gnostic texts depict the angels as responsible for the creation of the material realm and the imprisonment of the divine spark within it. They are the archons, the rulers of the lower realms, who seek to keep humanity trapped in ignorance and illusion. This dual nature of Gnostic angels reflects the ambivalence of the Gnostic attitude towards the cosmos itself. The material world is seen as both a trap and a necessary arena for the soul's spiritual journey and refinement. The angels, in this sense, symbolize the soul's own inner struggle, the battle between light and darkness that each individual must confront. And perhaps no figure embodies this symbolic dimension of Gnostic angelology more than Sophia, the divine wisdom who plays a central role in many Gnostic cosmologies. Texts like the Apocryphon of John and the Pistis. Sophia portrays Sophia as a fallen angel, an eon who becomes trapped in the material realm through her own misplaced desire. Yet Sophia is also the source of humanity's divinity, the light that guides the soul back to its true home. As the Nag Hammadi text Thunder, Perfect Mind expresses, I was sent forth from the power, and I have come to those who reflect upon me, and I have been found among those who seek after me. Look upon me, you who reflect upon me, and you hearers, hear me. You who are waiting for me, take me to yourselves, and do not banish me from your sight, and do not make your voice hate me, nor your hearing. Do not be ignorant of me anywhere or anytime. Be on your guard. Do not be ignorant of me, for I am the first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the mother and the daughter. I am the members of my mother. I am the barren one, and many are her sons. I am she whose wedding is great, and I have not taken a husband. I am the midwife, and she who does not bear. I am the solace of my labor pains. I am the bride and the bridegroom, and it is my husband who begot me. I am the mother of my father, and the sister of my husband, and he is my offspring. I am the slave of him who prepared me. I am the ruler of my offspring. But he is the one who begot me before the time on a birthday. and he is my offspring in due time, and my power is from him. I am the staff of his power in his youth, and he is the rod of my old age, and whatever he wills happens to me. I am the silence that is incomprehensible, and the idea whose remembrance is frequent. I am the voice whose sound is manifold, and the word whose appearance is multiple. I am the utterance of my name. Why, you who hate me, do you love me, and hate those who love me? You who deny me, confess me, and you who confess me, deny me. You who tell the truth about me, lie about me, and you who have lied about me, tell the truth about me. You who know me, be ignorant of me, and those who have not known me, let them know me. For I am knowledge and ignorance. I am shame and boldness. I am shameless, I am ashamed. I am strength and I am fear. I am war and peace. Give heed to me. I am the one who is disgraced and the great one. Give heed to my poverty and my wealth. Do not be arrogant to me when I am cast out upon the earth, and you will find me in those that are to come. And do not look upon me on the dung heap, nor go and leave me cast out, and you will find me in the kingdoms. And do not look upon me when I am cast out among those who are disgraced, and in the least places, nor laugh at me. And do not cast me out among those who are slain in violence. But I am compassionate and I am cruel. Be on your guard. Do not hate my obedience, and do not love my self-control. In my weakness, do not forsake me, and do not be afraid of my power. For why do you despise my fear and curse my pride? But I am she who exists in all fears and strength in trembling. I am she who is weak, and I am well in a pleasant place. I am senseless, and I am wise. Why have you hated me in your counsels? For I shall be silent among those who are silent, and I shall appear and speak. Why then have you hated me, you Greeks? Because I am a barbarian among the barbarians. For I am the wisdom of the Greeks and the knowledge of the barbarians. I am the judgment of the Greeks and of the barbarians. I am the one whose image is great in Egypt, and the one who has no image among the barbarians. I am the one who has been hated everywhere, and who has been loved everywhere. I am the one whom they call life, and you have called death. I am the one whom they call law, and you have called lawlessness. I am the one whom you have pursued, and I am the one whom you have seized. I am the one whom you have scattered, and you have gathered me together. I am the one before whom you have been ashamed, and you have been shameless to me. I am she who does not keep festival, and I am she whose festivals are many. I am godless, and I am the one whose God is great. I am the one whom you have reflected upon, and you have scorned me. I am unlearned, and they learn from me. I am the one that you have despised, and you reflect upon me. I am the one whom you have hidden from, and you appear to me. But whenever you hide yourselves, I myself will appear. For whenever you appear, I myself will hide from you. Wasn't this wonderful? Now what can I say better than this? Sophia speaks as a paradoxical, multivalent being who encompasses all polarities. She is a symbol of the soul's own journey, the descent into matter, and the eventual return to the divine source. For Carl Jung, this psychological dimension was a key of Gnostic angelology. Jung saw in Gnostic myths a profound reflection of the archetypal structures of the psyche. Gnostic angels, for Jung, symbolize the process of individuation, the soul striving towards wholeness and self-realization. As Jung wrote in Ion, the individual ego is the subject of personal wishes and desires, but not of acts of redemption. Only the self, as a supraordinate and inclusive whole, can take into account the data of the divided state and submit them to the realization of the unconscious will of the great man, the One, the Anthropos. In this Jungian view, studying Gnostic angelology becomes a form of psychology, a way to explore the hidden recesses of the soul through mythological symbolism. The truth is that by confronting the angels and demons of the Gnostic world, we confront the forces shaping our own psyche, the forces of light and darkness that shape our inner world, as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, as without, so within. Yet the Gnostic understanding of angels was psychological, profoundly ontological and metaphysical. Gnostics viewed angels as real beings with concrete existence and agency in the cosmos. To elaborate, the cosmologies of Gnostic texts depict angels as active agents in the creation and governance of the universe. This points to a central theme in Gnostic thought, a profound sense of the complexity and ambivalence of the cosmos, shaped by forces beyond ordinary human ken. Yet for Gnostics, recognizing this was not cause for despair, but a call to spiritual liberation through transcendent knowledge or gnosis, to understand the true nature of the cosmos and the role of the angels within it. This is how the Gnostic seals freedom from the chains of ignorance and illusion binding the soul. In this sense, Gnostic angels formed a kind of cosmic map, a guide to the hidden structures of reality that could aid the soul's navigation back to the divine. The bewildering mythological systems of Gnostic texts, with their elaborate hierarchies of eons and archons, in fact encoded spiritual wisdom. For example, the complex emanation doctrines of Valentinian Gnosticism, as described by the Church Father Irenaeus, were more than mere fantasy. They maintain, then, that in the invisible and ineffable heights above there exists a certain perfect, pre-existent eon whom they call Proarchor, Propator, and Bythus, and describe as being invisible and incomprehensible. Eternal and unbegotten, he remained throughout innumerable cycles of ages in profound serenity and quiescence. There existed, along with him, Enoch, whom they also call Charis and Siege. At last, this Bythus determined to send forth from himself the beginning of all things, and deposited this production, which he had resolved to bring forth, in his contemporary Sige, even as seed is deposited in the womb. She then, having received this seed, and becoming pregnant, gave birth to Nous, who was both similar and equal to him who had produced him, and was alone capable of comprehending his father's greatness. This Nous they call also Monogenes, and father, and the beginning of all things. Along with him was also produced Aletheia, and these four constituted the first and first-begotten Pythagorean tetrad, which they also denominate the root of all things. For there are first Bythus and Siege, and then Nous and Aletheia. And Monogenes, perceiving for what purpose he had been produced, also himself sent forth Logos and Zoe, being the father of all those who were to come after him, and the beginning and fashioning of the entire Pleroma. By the conjunction of Logos and Zoe were brought forth Anthropos and Ecclesia, and thus was formed the first-begotten Ogdoad, the root and substance of all things, called among them by four names, viz. Bythus and Nous, and Logos and Anthropos. For each of these is masculo-feminine, as follows. Propator was united by a conjunction with his Enoch, then Monogenes, that is Nous, with Aletheia, Logos with Zoe, and Anthropos with Ecclesia. While bewildering at first glance, such passages outline an initiatic path, a progressive unveiling of divine realities. The Gnostics sought to embrace these directly, to establish a personal relationship with angelic realms through practices of ritual, meditation, and visionary experience. The Gnostic understanding of angels emphasizes direct, personal encounter as a means of spiritual awakening and transformation. This experiential focus is vividly portrayed in the Excerpta ex Theodoto, a collection of Gnostic teachings preserved by the early Christian theologian Clement of Alexandria. In one passage, Theodotus describes the role of angels in the process of human conception and generation. An ancient said that the embryo is a living thing, for that the soul entering into the womb after it has been by cleansing prepared for conception, and introduced by one of the angels who preside over generation, and who knows the time for conception, moves the woman to intercourse. And that on the seed being deposited, the spirit which is in the seed is, so to speak, appropriated, and is thus assumed into conjunction in the process of formation. He cited as a proof to all how, when the angels give glad tidings to the barren, they introduce souls before conception, and in the gospel the babe leapt as a living thing. And the barren are barren for this reason, that the soul which unites for the deposit of the seed is not introduced so as to secure conception and generation. This passage suggests that angels play an active role in the very beginnings of human life, overseeing the entry of the soul into the womb and facilitating the process of conception. The angelic realm is thus intimately connected with the physical world, and angelic activity is seen as a necessary condition for the generation of new life. Theodotus also discusses the role of angels in the unfolding of sacred history, particularly in relation to the covenants between God and humanity. The heavens declare the glory of God. The heavens are taken in various meanings, both those defined by space and revolution, and those by covenant, the immediate operation of the first created angels. For the covenants caused a more especial appearance of angels, that in the case of Adam, that in the case of Noah, that in the case of Abraham, that in the case of Moses. For, moved by the Lord, the first created angels exercised their influence on the angels attached to the prophets, considering the covenants the glory of God. Furthermore, the things done on earth by angels were done by the first created angels to the glory of God. Here angels are understood as mediators of the divine covenants, working to establish and maintain the relationship between God and humanity throughout history. The first created angels are seen as particularly important in this regard, exercising their influence on the angels associated with the prophets and overseeing the implementation of the covenants on earth. Finally, Theodotus presents a hierarchical view of the heavens, with the Lord at the summit and various ranks of angels and holy men below. It is the Lord that is principally denominated the heavens, and then the first created, and after these also the holy men before the law, as the patriarchs, and Moses, and the prophets, then also the apostles. And the firmament showeth his handiwork. He applies the term firmament to God, the passionless and immovable, as also elsewhere the same David says, I will love thee, O Lord, my strength and my refuge. Accordingly, the firmament itself shows forth the work of his hands, that is, shows and manifests the work of his angels. For he shows forth and manifests those whom he hath made. This celestial hierarchy reflects the Gnostic understanding of the cosmos as a graduated series of emanations from the divine source, with each level of being mediating the divine presence to the levels below it. The angels, as immediate emanations of God, play a crucial role in this cosmic order, manifesting the divine will and wisdom in the created realm. Taken together, these passages from the Excerpta ex Theodoto paint a rich picture of the experiential and cosmological dimensions of Gnostic angelology. Angels are seen as active agents in the drama of human life and the unfolding of sacred history, mediating the divine presence and facilitating the soul's journey towards spiritual awakening and ultimate reunion with its divine source. By engaging with these angelic realities through direct transformative encounter, the Gnostic seeks to transcend the limitations of the material realm and participate fully in the divine life that animates the cosmos. To understand angelic contact as a path to spiritual awakening and liberation has a perennial relevance, particularly in times of widespread alienation and disconnection. What a shame. There's a transformative potential inherent in the encounter with the numinous, inviting us to rediscover the divine spark that animates our being and connects us with the transcendent source of all reality, to transform spiritually, to awaken. We are reminded that the divine is a living presence that can be directly encountered and experienced. In a world that often seems fragmented and devoid of meaning, the Gnostic path offers a way to reconnect with the luminous ground of our being and to realize our true nature as spiritual beings. Of course, this is hard as hell. The shadows are there, of course. You need to attune to the archetypal forces and existential questions of meaning and identity. It takes discernment and courage to face the unknown depths within us. Yet for those who accept the call, the rewards are profound. In the Gospel of Philip, a revelatory text found in the Nag Hammadi library, we find a striking description of the ultimate goal of Gnostic practice. Light and darkness, life and death, right and left are brothers of one another. They are inseparable. Because of this, neither are the good good nor the evil evil, nor is life life, nor death death. For this reason, each one will dissolve into its earliest origin. But those who are exalted above the world are indissoluble, eternal. We are back to the transcendence of duality that lies at the heart of the Gnostic path. By engaging with the angelic realms, the Gnostic seeks to move beyond the polarities and limitations of the material world, awakening to the eternal, unified reality that dwells within. The Gospel of Philip further emphasizes the transformative power of this unitive realization. Those who say they will die first and then rise are in error. If they do not first receive the resurrection while they live, when they die, they will receive nothing. We must learn to see beyond the veil of appearances and to awaken to the divine reality that animates all things while you live, today, now. In doing so, we take a crucial step towards healing the rift between matter and spirit, earth and heaven, self and divinity. This is the perennial promise of Gnostic wisdom, to guide us back to our essential wholeness, to help us remember who and what we truly are. It requires courage, discernment, and a willingness to confront the uncertainties and unknown within ourselves. Yet for those who heed the call, the rewards are immeasurable. In the luminous presence of the angels, we catch a glimpse of our own divinity, our own inextricable union with the source of all being. In this sense, Gnostic angelology is more than a relic of a bygone age or an esoteric curiosity. It is a living tradition of spiritual wisdom, as relevant today as it was 2 millennia ago. By following the Gnostic path of angelic encounter, we join a lineage of seekers and visionaries who have dared to look beyond the confines of consensus reality and awaken to the deeper dimensions of the cosmos and the self. In a world that often seems broken and adrift, this ancient wisdom reminds us of our true inheritance, the radiant divinity that dwells within each of us, waiting to be discovered anew. As we open to the transforming presence of the angels, we take up the perennial quest for gnosis, liberating knowledge, and set forth on the journey of awakening that leads us ever closer to the ineffable source of all that is. The path may be challenging, but the destination is sure, the recovery of our essential nature, the realization of our divine birthright. In the company of the Gnostic angels, we walk the path of transformation, one step at a time, until at last we arrive at the bridal chamber, the place of eternal union, and dissolve into the mystery from which we came. Islam, Quranic revelations, mystical philosophy, and centuries of theological and poetic reflections on angels. At the heart of this tradition is a profound sense of the divine presence that suffuses all of creation, and of the role of angels as luminous intermediaries between the human and the divine, the same story. The Quran itself is replete with references to angels, from the majestic figure of Gabriel, who brings the divine revelation to the Prophet Muhammad, to the host of celestial beings who worship God and carry out His will across the cosmos. As the Quran states, the Messiah will never disdain to be a servant of Allah, nor will the angels who are close to Him. And whoever disdains His worship and is arrogant, He will gather them to Himself altogether. In this sense, angels are devoted servants of God, forever worshipping and glorifying the divine. It also points to the ultimate unity of all creation, as all beings, whether human or angelic, are destined to return to their divine source. For the Sufi mystics, this return to the divine was the ultimate goal of the spiritual path, and the angels were seen as luminous guides and companions on this journey. The great Sufi master Rumi captures this beautifully in his poetry. I died as a mineral and became a plant. I died as a plant and rose to be an animal. I died as an animal and I was man. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Yet once more I shall die as man, to soar with angels blessed. But even from angelhood I must pass on. All except God doth perish. When I have sacrificed my angel soul, I shall become what no mind e'er conceived. Oh, let me not exist. For non-existence proclaims in organ tones, to Him we shall return. The soul is on a cosmic ladder from the mineral realm up through the angelic orders and ultimately back to the divine source. The angels in this schema represent a higher stage of being, a more luminous and subtle manifestation of the divine that the human soul must pass through on its way to ultimate realization. This idea of the soul's ascent through the angelic realms finds its most elaborate expression in the Islamic tradition of the Miraj, or the Prophet's night journey and ascension through the heavens. In this powerful narrative, Muhammad is guided by Gabriel through the 7 heavens, encountering various prophets and angelic beings along the way, until he finally stands in the divine presence itself. The 14th century Persian poet Amir Khusro describes this journey in vivid detail. The Burak, which carried the prophet, spread its wings and bore him beyond the 7 heavenly spheres. From the Sidrat al-Muntaha, the lote tree of the uttermost boundary, the archangel Gabriel led him to the divine presence. There he witnessed the effulgent beauty of the Lord and heard the secrets that cannot be spoken. This mystical journey of ascent, guided by Gabriel and the angelic hosts, becomes in the Islamic tradition a powerful symbol of the soul's yearning for the divine and of the transformative power of spiritual realization. But the Islamic understanding of angels is not limited to these narratives of ascent and return. The angels are also seen as agents of the divine will that shape human destiny and guide the unfolding of creation. The 13th century Andalusian mystic Ibn al-Arabi explores this theme in his treatise on the divine names, the Fusus al-Hikam. The angels are some of the faculties of that form which is the form of the universe, which the Sufis designate in their technical vocabulary as the great man, al-Insan al-Kabir. For the angels are to it as the spiritual ruhani, and sensory faculties are to the human organism. Each of these faculties is veiled by itself, and it sees nothing which is superior to its own essence, for there is something in it which considers itself to be worthy of high rank and an elevated degree with Allah. It is like this because it has an aspect of the divine synthesis, Jamia. In it is something which derives from the divine side, and something which derives from the side of the reality of the realities. This organism carries these attributes as determined by the universal nature, which encompasses the containers of the universe from the most exalted to the basest. However, the intellect cannot perceive this fact by means of logical investigation, for this sort of perception only exists through divine unveiling, by which one recognizes the basis of the forms of the universe which received the spirits. For Ibn al-Arabi, the entire cosmos is alive with angelic presence, as each created thing reflects a specific aspect of the divine reality. The angels are the intermediaries of this divine self-disclosure, the active agents of God's creative power in the world. This sense of the all-pervading presence of the angelic is beautifully expressed in the Islamic tradition of the recitation of the angels, Dhikr al-Malaika, a prayer practice that invokes the ceaseless worship and glorification of God by the angelic hosts. The angels are continuously going around the throne, glorifying and praising God, and when they pass by the believers in the lower heavens, they say, "Glory be to the one whom eyes cannot see, minds cannot comprehend, and imaginations cannot grasp. Glory be to the living, the self-subsisting, the eternal, the omniscient, the omnipotent." This prayer captures the sense of awe and wonder that characterizes the Islamic understanding of the angelic realm, and the recognition of the divine mystery that lies beyond the grasp of human comprehension. The Islamic angelology invites us to see the world with new eyes, as promised, to recognize the signs of the divine that are everywhere around us, and to open ourselves to the guiding presence of the angelic beings that illuminate the path of our return. As the 12th century Persian mystic Attar writes in his Conference of the Birds, "What are you here? Mere carrion, rotten flesh, withheld from truth by this world's clumsy mesh. Outsoar both this world and the next, and there, released from both, take off the hood you wear. When you have turned from both worlds, you will land on Zulgarnin's outstretched and welcome hand. And little goldfinch, welcome. May your fire be an external sign of fierce desire. Whatever happens, burn in those bright flames, and shut your eyes and soul to earthly claims. Then as you burn, whatever pain you feel, remember God will recompense your zeal. When you perceive his hidden secrets, give your life to God's affairs and truly live. At last, made perfect in reality, you will be gone, and only God will be." In this poetic image, the inner eye that perceives the divine reality is none other than the eye of the heart, the organ of spiritual perception that is awakened and illuminated by the angelic light. And it is this light that guides us step by step on the path of return to our divine source, until we too become radiant reflections of the one light that shines at the heart of all creation. So let us open our eyes and our hearts to the angelic presence that surrounds us, and let us walk the path of remembrance and return, guided by the luminous beings who are forever calling us home. It doesn't matter if it's Gnosticism or Islam, it's really the same grand story. You just have to follow the lines and the patterns. In the first part of this series, we discussed Metatron. Now let's get back to Enoch. Enoch embodies the complex mythological and philosophical ideas that shape early Jewish and Christian conceptions of the celestial hierarchy. As a liminal character poised between the earthly and heavenly realms, Enoch embodies the archetypal journey of ascent, the transformative path of the visionary sage who dares to transcend the boundaries of ordinary human experience and access the hidden dimensions of the divine. Enoch embodies the human becoming divine, not just any divine, the second most powerful entity in the universe divine. The biblical account of Enoch's life and translation into heaven, in Genesis, is nucleus, around which a rich apocryphal tradition crystallizes. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God, then he was no more because God took him away. And then in Hebrews we find out that by faith Enoch was taken up so that he did not see death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. This tradition, exemplified most vividly in the composite work known as First Enoch, or the Ethiopic Book of Enoch, expands and elaborates on the cryptic scriptural narrative, transforming Enoch into a paradigmatic figure of celestial knowledge and power. The Book of Enoch describes Enoch's cosmic journeys and his interactions with angelic beings. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the days of tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. And Enoch, a righteous man whose eyes were opened by God, took up his parable and said, I saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me, and from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw. But not for this generation, but for a remote one, which is for to come. Guided by angelic intermediaries, Enoch ascends through various levels of heaven, witnessing the sublime workings of the celestial order and the dire consequences of angelic rebellion. And I saw there the seraphim, and the cherubim, and the ophanim. These are they who do not sleep, but keep watch over the throne of his glory. In the Enochic literature, the patriarch becomes a cosmic traveler, a visionary scribe, granted unprecedented access to the secrets of the universe. Guided by angelic intermediaries, Enoch ascends through the various levels of heaven, witnessing the sublime workings of the celestial order and the dire consequences of angelic rebellion. And if you remove the surface layers, the relationship between human consciousness and the divine, the possibilities and perils of transcendent knowledge and experience become apparent vividly and powerfully. Central to the Enochic mythos is the haunting tale of the Watchers, the angelic beings who transgress the boundary between heaven and earth, mating with human women and giving rise to a monstrous race of giants. As it writes in the first book of Enoch, And it came to pass, when the sons of men had increased, that in those days there were born to them fair and beautiful daughters, and the angels, the sons of heaven, saw them and desired them. And they bore great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells. These devoured all the toil of men, until men could no longer sustain them. And the giants turned against them in order to devour men. This story of illicit union and cosmic corruption, echoing the ancient Near Eastern motif of the divine-human hybrids, becomes in the Enochic tradition a profound exploration of the origins of evil and suffering in the world. As Michael Knibb notes, the story of the Watchers is essentially an etiology of evil, an attempt to explain the origins of evil in the world, a theodicy asking with the troubling question of how wickedness can arise in a universe created by a just and omnipotent God. Yet even as the Watcher's narrative probes the dark recesses of angelic fallibility and cosmic disorder, Enoch radiates light, human potential, and transformative vision. To quote the first book of Enoch again, And I saw other lightnings and the stars of heaven, and I saw how he called them all by their names, and they hearkened unto him. Ascending to the heights of heaven and beholding the ineffable glory of the divine, Enoch becomes a symbol of the deification or angelification of the righteous, the capacity of human beings to transcend their mortal limitations and participate directly in the life of the celestial realm. This theme of human transformation and exaltation finds its most striking expression in the later Jewish mystical tradition, where Enoch is identified with the exalted angel Metatron, the lesser Yahweh, who serves as the celestial scribe and vice-regent of the divine. As Gershom Scholem observes, Metatron is the highest of the angels, the prince of the presence, and the celestial scribe who writes down the merits of Israel. He is, in a sense, the celestial counterpart of the earthly Enoch, a luminous figure embodying the ultimate potential of human-divine union. This mystical identification of Enoch with Metatron points to a deeper undercurrent in Jewish angelological thought, a complex dialectic between the transcendence and immanence of the divine, the otherness and intimacy of God. Because even as the angelic realm is depicted as a hierarchical order mediating between the ineffable mystery of the Godhead and the material world of human experience, there is also a striking tendency to blur the boundaries between human and divine, to suggest that the righteous may ascend to the highest rungs of the celestial ladder and merge with the very being of God. As Moshe Idol notes, the supernal man is the cosmic anthropos, the primordial man who existed before the creation of the world and who was the source of all the levels of reality, a mythic figure who embodies the archetypal unity of human and divine, the microcosmic reflection of the macrocosmic order. This theme of human deification, of the ascent and transformation of human consciousness into the angelic and divine realms, is intimately connected in the Enochic tradition with the cultivation of visionary experience and mystical praxis. Enoch's celestial journeys are powerful mythic expressions of the human capacity for altered states of consciousness, for the direct apprehension of spiritual realities beyond the veil of ordinary perception. And the vision was shown to me thus: Behold, in the vision clouds invited me, and a mist invited me, and the course of the stars and the lightnings drove and impelled me, and the winds in the vision gave me wings and drove me, as written in the first Enoch. And as Ithamar Gruenwald observes, Enoch's ascent to heaven is a paradigm of the mystical ascent of the soul, which is a central theme in Jewish mysticism, a template for the transformative path of the visionary sage who seeks to unite with the divine ground of being. This emphasis on the transformative power of visionary experience situates the Enochic tradition within the broader context of ancient Jewish and Christian apocalyptic thought, a worldview that sees revelation as a means of cosmic and personal transformation. In the apocalyptic imagination, the unveiling of celestial secrets is not merely a matter of speculative knowledge, but rather a catalyst for the transfiguration of human consciousness and the ultimate redemption of the world. As John Collins notes, Enoch is the prototype of the apocalyptic visionary, who is taken up to heaven and shown the secrets of the cosmos and the course of history. A figure who embodies the revelatory power of the divine to shatter the illusions of conventional reality and reveal the true nature of things. Yet even as the Enochic tradition celebrates the transformative potential of visionary experience, it also faces the profound ethical and existential questions raised by the apocalyptic worldview. As the first book of Enoch beautifully framed it, "And I saw there something horrible, neither the high heaven nor the firm ground, but a desert place prepared and terrible. And this is the task of Kezeph and Artakephah and Amen. They taught the art of writing and the solving of wisdom, and the dividing of roots and the solving of wisdom. And there was great impiety and much fornication, and they went astray, and all their ways became corrupt." The story of the fallen watchers, after all, is a reflection on the dangers of knowledge without wisdom, of power without compassion. In a sense, the watchers represent the shadow side of the apocalyptic visionary, the hubris and folly that can arise when human beings seek to transcend their proper place in the cosmic order and claim for themselves the prerogatives of the divine. As George Nicholsberg observes, the Enochic myth of the Watchers is a theodicy, an attempt to explain the existence of evil in a world created by a good God. a cautionary tale about the consequences of transgressing sacred boundaries and the need for humility and discernment in the face of the ineffable. Ultimately, then, the Enochic tradition presents a complex and nuanced vision that holds in tension the immanence and transcendence of God, the capacity for human transformation, and the limits of human knowledge and power. In the figure of Enoch himself, we find a vivid embodiment of this dialectical tension, a liminal figure who mediates between heaven and earth, between the temporal and the eternal. As Enoch relates in the first book of Enoch, "And I fell upon my face before the Lord of Spirits, and the angel Michael, one of the archangels, took me by my right hand and raised me up and led me out into all the secrets of mercy and the secrets of righteousness. No angel could enter, and at the appearance of the face of him who is honored and praised, no creature of flesh could look." André Cacot also notes, Enoch is a mediator between heaven and earth, between the divine and the human. He is a figure of hope and of warning, a symbol of the possibilities and the limitations of human existence, a reminder of both the grandeur and the fragility of the human condition. For contemporary readers, the Enochic tradition offers a rich and provocative resource for reflection on the nature of the spiritual journey, the relationship between personal and cosmic. In a world that often seems fractured and disconnected, the vision of Enoch holds out the promise of a deeper unity, a hidden wholeness that links heaven and earth, God and humanity, in a luminous web of meaning and purpose. At the same time, the Enochic tradition challenges us to confront the shadows and contradictions within ourselves and our world, with good and evil, knowledge and power that are in each one of us. So start the visionary transformation, seek out the hidden depths of the life that surrounds you. Like Enoch himself, we are called to become mediators between the visible and the invisible, the known and the unknown, to cultivate the wisdom and compassion that alone can guide us through the spiritual path. But remember that the true journey of transformation is not an escape from the world, but rather a profound engagement with it, a commitment to the ongoing work of creation. The example of Enoch embodies the highest possibilities of the human spirit. May we have the discipline and imagination to follow in his footsteps, to take up the mantle of the visionary sage and the celestial scribe, and to write our own chapter in the ever-unfolding story of the divine human encounter. For in the end, the journey of Enoch is the journey of us all, a pilgrimage of the heart and mind that leads us ever closer to the source and ground of our being, the ineffable mystery that we call God. Blessed is he who looks to raise his soul for those who live forever, and blessed is he in whose soul is understanding, who walks in integrity and righteousness, and whose glory endures forever and ever. His name shall be blessed to all eternity. So does the first book of Enoch say. In the esoteric waters of Jewish mysticism, the Merkabah symbolizes the soul's ascent from the depths to the divine realms. This celestial chariot, first glimpsed in the visionary accounts of the prophet Ezekiel, becomes a central motif in the development of early Jewish mystical thought and practice, offering a powerful metaphor for the journey of spiritual transformation and the unveiling of divine presence. The Merkabah is described in vivid detail in the opening chapter of the book of Ezekiel. I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. This enigmatic vision sets the stage for a complex system of correspondences and associations, linking the various levels of reality in a holographic web of meaning. The 4 living creatures, each with 4 faces and 4 wings, embody the fundamental archetypes of creation, the primal energies that give rise to the manifest world. At the heart of the Merkabah vision lies the figure of the enthroned divine presence, the anthropomorphic image of God that occupies the center of the chariot. Above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli, and high above on the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him. This mysterious figure becomes a focal point for mystical contemplation and devotion, a symbol of the ultimate unity and transcendence of the divine. For the early Jewish mystics, known as the Merkabah riders, the vision of the chariot was not merely a metaphorical or allegorical representation, but a lived experience of ascent and transformation. The Hekkalot literature, a collection of early Jewish mystical texts, describes the techniques and practices used by these mystics to achieve a direct encounter with the divine presence. Said Rabbi Ishmael, "When I heard because my hands grew feeble and I fell prostrate upon my face, and I was terrified, and there was no force in me, neither to speak nor to answer. At once did Metatron, the prince of the presence, answer and said to me, My friend, rise and stand and strengthen thy loins and understand and be intelligent in the matter of the words which he will speak to thee. And I heard a voice going forth from between the two cherubim and saying, My friend Ishmael, fear not, for I will not exact from them payment measure for measure. For I know that they have not in them the strength to endure, but I act for my name's sake. And I set division between the nations and great enmity between Edom and Ishmael, that they make war one with another, and so destroy not utterly my people Israel." Through techniques of meditation, chant, and visualization, these mystics sought to enter into a state of altered consciousness in which they could ascend through the various levels of the celestial realms and achieve a direct encounter with the divine presence. A profound meditation on the nature of spiritual ascension emerges from this Zoharic text, centering on the mystical vehicle known as the Merkabah, the divine chariot. The text weaves together multiple layers of meaning, revealing an intricate cosmological framework that maps the soul's journey toward divine communion. We encounter a tripartite hierarchy of animating forces: Chayot, the holy Chaya, the supreme level, corresponding to Chokmah, divine wisdom; the higher Chaya, an intermediary force aligned with Bina, understanding; the Chayo, the plural manifestations that animate Zeir Anpin and facilitate divine interaction. As the text states, there is Chaya above Chaya, suggesting a careful gradation of spiritual potencies, each serving as a conduit for divine illumination to flow downward while enabling consciousness to ascend upward. Then there's an architectural framework of ascension. The throne vision presents a remarkable metaphysical architecture. Above the expanse that was over their heads was the appearance of sapphire stone in the likeness of a throne, and upon the likeness of the throne there was a likeness like the appearance of a man upon it, from above. This throne, associated with the world of Beriah, rests upon four foundational pillars corresponding to the Sephirot of Keter, Chokmah, Bina, and Da'at, forming a stable base for divine manifestation. Perhaps most significantly, the text reveals how this cosmic structure becomes internalized within the spiritual practitioner, through proper alignment of the soul's dimensions. Nefesh, corresponding to Asya; Ruach, corresponding to Yetzirah; Neshama, corresponding to Beriah. One can harness their chariot like Joseph and ascend to commune with higher realms of consciousness, reaching the level of Chaya, Atzilut. This represents a profound transformation where the mystic's own being becomes a vehicle, Merkabah, for divine revelation, echoing the text's declaration that when all these levels are rectified within the person himself, so that all the levels are a Merkabah for godliness, genuine spiritual elevation becomes possible. This analysis reveals the Merkabah not merely as an abstract theological construct, but as a sophisticated spiritual technology, mapping the territory between human consciousness and divine reality, offering a structured path for traversing that sublime distance. At its core, the Merkabah represents a dynamic and multifaceted model of the cosmos, a map of the inner landscapes of consciousness that the mystic must walk in order to achieve union with the divine. In the descriptions of the chariot's structure and movements, we find a system of correspondences and associations linking the various levels of reality in a holographic web of meaning. The four living creatures that surround the chariot, each with four faces and four wings, embody the fundamental archetypes of creation: the primal energies that give rise to the manifest world. These celestial beings, identified in later traditions as the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael, serve as guardians and guides for the ascending soul, representing the different aspects of the divine nature that must be integrated and harmonized in the process of spiritual realization. The metaphor of the chariot thus serves as both a macrocosmic model of divine manifestation and a microcosmic template for individual spiritual development, revealing the deep correspondence between cosmic and personal dimensions of mystical experience. Through careful cultivation of these internal forces, one may achieve what Joseph accomplished when he harnessed his chariot, a state of elevated consciousness capable of direct divine communion. This process of ascent and transformation is mirrored in the Kabbalistic doctrine of the four worlds, which maps the different levels of reality onto the structure of the Merkabah. According to this model, the physical world of Asaya corresponds to the wheels of the chariot, the world of formation or Yetzirah to the living creatures, the world of creation or Beriah to the throne, and the world of emanation or Atziluth to the divine presence itself. By ascending through these levels, the mystic seeks to unite the lower and higher aspects of the self, bringing the soul into alignment with the divine will and purpose. At the same time, the Merkabah also represents a broader cultural and historical phenomenon, reflecting the deep yearning of the Jewish people for a direct encounter with the divine in the face of exile and oppression. In the centuries following the destruction of the Second Temple, the Merkabah became a focal point for the mystical and messianic hopes of the Jewish community, a symbol of the ultimate redemption and restoration of the divine presence in the world. In this sense, the Merkabah stands as a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to transcend the limitations of the material world and to achieve a state of unity and communion with the divine. Through the ongoing engagement with its rich and multifaceted symbology, the Jewish mystical tradition invites us to embark on our own journey of transformation and realization, to ascend the heights of consciousness and to unveil the presence of the divine within and without. Study it carefully and practice it wisely, because the seed of the divine is already planted within you. The only question is, how will you tend your own garden to allow this seed to grow into a mighty tree? Let's stay for a while around the enigmatic and visionary world of the Hebrew Bible. The book of Ezekiel is the testament emerging within the spiritual and historical crisis faced by the people of Israel during the tumultuous period of the Babylonian exile. Ezekiel, a priest and prophet whose name signifies the strength of God, or God strengthens, appears as the main character. His vivid and awe-inspiring visions shaping the development of Jewish and Christian mystical thought for centuries to come. At the heart of Ezekiel's prophetic experience lies his encounter with the divine chariot, the Merkabah, a moment of revelation that represents a radical transformation of consciousness and a glimpse into the hidden depths of the divine mystery. In this account, Ezekiel describes his vision with vivid detail. "I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings." This visionary encounter represents a powerful reassurance of God's continued presence and sovereignty amidst the chaos and upheaval of the time. A profound moment of spiritual and historical crisis for the people of Israel. The vision of the Merkabah serves as a blueprint for the techniques of ascent and meditation employed by early Jewish mystics in their quest for direct encounter with the divine, a symbolic representation of the process of spiritual transformation and awakening. Central to this symbology are the 4 living creatures, each bearing the faces of a lion, ox, eagle, and human. These angelic figures embody different attributes that reflect various aspects of the divine nature and its relationship to creation, reminiscent of the cherubim described in earlier biblical accounts. As Ezekiel further elaborates, each of the 4 living creatures had 4 faces. One face was that of a human being, the second the face of a lion, the third the face of an ox, and the fourth the face of an eagle. Each of the living creatures went straight ahead. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, without turning as they went. The Midrash Rabbah, an early collection of Jewish biblical interpretation, further elaborates, "Man is the proudest of God's creatures, the eagle is the haughtiest amongst the birds, the ox amongst the cattle, and the lion amongst the beasts of the field. Hence, it was the image of these four which Ezekiel saw in his vision on the throne of God. The wheels of the chariot, full of eyes and moving in synchronicity with the living creatures, represent divine omniscience and the interconnectedness of all aspects of reality, a powerful image of the cosmic wheel turning within a wheel. Ezekiel describes these wheels in detail. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved. And when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Ezekiel saw the Merkabah, and his soul desired to be joined with it. At that moment, God allowed him to experience the transformative power of the prophetic experience and the profound impact it has on the individual psyche. The Hekalot Rabbati, one of the central texts of the Merkabah mystical tradition, describes the atmosphere of the encounter vividly. Said Rabbi Ishmael, "Surya, the prince of the presence, spoke to me, saying, 'Friend, I shall tell thee the praise of the king and of his throne. Therefore it is said, Thou hast uplifted the throne of thy glory upon the cherubim of heaven, and the Ophanim of greatness do bear it, and creatures of frost, creatures of mist, creatures of flame, crowned with loftiness and with splendor. And the eyes of Shaddai are lifted up upon them, and they were extended beneath it, as rams beneath the plough, and it was erected upon their heads, with strength, might, and power. As it is said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Be exalted, be raised on high, be lifted up, O splendid King, upon the throne raised high and lifted up, fearful and terrific. Thou dwellest in the chambers of the temple of loftiness. The servants of thy throne are terrified and make tremble. The heavens which are the footstool of thy feet each day, with voice of exultation and tumult of psalmody and roar of songs. As it is said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Messengers of the power of God and awakeners of the Shekinah, tumultuous of voice, who magnify song, to the voice of the servants and the voice of the mighty, sing with sweet mouth and with holy melody, him who dwelleth in the lava stream of flaming coals. Each level of the chariot represents a different stage of consciousness that must be traversed to reach the ultimate goal of divine union. It is as intense as it gets. Ezekiel's vision also introduces the figure of the likeness of a man on the throne above the chariot, an anthropomorphic representation of the divine that bridges the gap between the transcendent reality of God and the human realm. Above the vault over their heads was what looked like a throne of lapis lazuli, and high above on the throne was a figure like that of a man. I saw that from what appeared to be his waist up, he looked like glowing metal, as if full of fire, and that from there down he looked like fire, and brilliant light surrounded him. This image, often identified with the Son of Man in later apocalyptic literature, symbolizes the possibility of direct revelation and the ultimate unity of the created order. This process of ascent and transformation can be seen as a powerful metaphor for the journey of the soul, a symbolic representation of the struggle to transcend the limitations of the ego and attain a direct encounter with the divine. The angelic figures that populate the Merkabah vision serve as guides and intermediaries in this process, reflecting different aspects of the psyche and the stages of spiritual development. In the Kabbalistic tradition, the Merkabah vision is mapped onto the structure of the Sephirot, the 10 emanations of the divine that form the basis of the tree of life. Each of the 4 living creatures is associated with a particular sephira, representing a specific attribute or quality of the divine nature. The Kabbalistic tradition weaves together the visionary encounters of Ezekiel's Merkabah and Isaiah's throne into a profound cosmological framework known as the 4 worlds. This metaphysical structure is a map of divine emanation, tracing the unfolding of reality from the ineffable essence of the divine to the manifest realm of physical existence. At the pinnacle of this cosmic hierarchy lies Atziluth, the world of emanation, a realm of pure divine wisdom beyond the boundaries of self-awareness. It is here that the anthropomorphic image of the divine appears in Ezekiel's vision, a likeness of a man enthroned upon a sapphire throne. This enigmatic representation points to the ultimate unity of the divine, a singular essence that transcends the limitations of human comprehension. Descending from the ineffable heights of Atziluth, we encounter Beriah, the world of creation, the first stirring of independent existence. This realm is symbolically associated with the throne, a metaphor for the divine act of self-limitation, akin to a king tempering his greatness as he assumes his seat. It is the abode of the seraphim. The fiery angels whose ceaseless ascent and descent embody the passionate yearning for divine understanding, even at the cost of self-annihilation. Yetzirah, the world of formation, unfolds as the realm of archetypal existence, populated by the Hayot, the living creatures whose faces bear the likeness of a lion, an ox, and an eagle. These angelic beings embody the primal emotional forces that shape the fabric of reality, their instinctual nature mirroring the fundamental drives that animate the world of living creatures. At the base of this cosmic hierarchy lies Asaya, the world of action, the realm of manifest existence, guided by the humble Ophanim, the wheels within wheels that symbolize the intricate pathways of divine influence in the physical world. This Kabbalistic interpretation of Ezekiel's vision is profound because it maps the same human soul's journey towards divine union. By tracing the four worlds onto the visionary encounter, the Kabbalists reveal a complex architecture of meaning, including divine emanation, angelic hierarchies, and the unfolding of creation. In this sense, the Merkabah is the soul's ascent through the layers of reality, a transformative journey that mirrors the divine process of emanation in reverse. As the seeker navigates the celestial realms, encountering the angelic guardians and divine thresholds, they undergo a profound process of inner transformation, shedding the veils of illusion and awakening to the ultimate unity that underlies the apparent multiplicity of creation. It's a call to walk the path of spiritual illumination, to ascend the ladder of the four worlds and unveil the divine mystery that hides in plain sight within the depths of our own being. By aligning ourselves with the archetypal forces that shape the fabric of reality, we participate in the great cosmic dance of creation, forever moving to the rhythm of the divine pulse that animates the universe. The Kabbalistic interpretation of the Merkabah highlights the enduring power of visionary experience to transform human consciousness and reveal the hidden dimensions of reality. It invites us to pierce the veil of appearance and glimpse the ineffable essence that lies beyond, to awaken to our own divine nature and take our place in the great unfolding of cosmic destiny. And once again, angels are mediators of divine energies, channels through which the creative power of God flows into the world. The transformative aspect of Ezekiel's vision has been a key theme in the mystical and psychological interpretations of the text. The encounter with the divine, as mediated through the angelic realm, is a gateway for profound inner change, a shattering of the ego structures that limit and define the individual, an individuated and integrated self. Ultimately, the legacy of Ezekiel's vision persists through the ages, inspiring generations of mystics, philosophers, and seekers of truth. The angelic realm, as revealed in the whirlwind of prophetic vision, remains a symbol of the mystery and majesty of the divine, a reminder of the transformative power of direct encounter with the numinous. You are invited to walk your own walk of transformation and to awaken and shine brighter than ever, to seek out the divine presence that dwells within the heart of the cosmos and the depths of the human soul. The Merkabah vision, with its symbolism and profound spiritual implications, obliges us to face the good old existential paradoxes and mystery, to open ourselves to the possibility of direct revelation and the ultimate unity of all things in the divine. The study of Ezekiel's angelology is exploring the infinite potential that resides within each of us, the spark of the eternal that animates the cosmos and calls us to a higher purpose. But as you gaze into the eyes of the living creatures and stand before the throne of the divine, you are reminded of your role as a mediator between heaven and earth, participants in the great dance of creation, forever moving to the rhythm of the angelic host and the pulse of the cosmic heart. In the face of the overwhelming majesty and mystery of the divine, Ezekiel's vision invites you to surrender to the transformative power of the numinous, to allow yourself to be shattered and remade in the image of the divine. As you step into the whirlwind of prophetic vision, you are called to awaken to your true nature, to recognize the unity that binds all things together and the divine spark that animates the universe. May we have the courage to embrace the mystery and step into the fire of transformation, allowing ourselves to be forever changed by the power of the divine. And may we emerge from that encounter as new beings, radiant with the light of heaven and ready to take our place in the great unfolding of cosmic destiny, forever moving to the rhythm of the angelic host and the pulse of the cosmic heart. The Hebrew Bible again. The story of Jacob's ladder stands as a luminous thread, braiding together earth and heaven, the human and the divine. This ancient tale of prophetic vision and spiritual ascent has captivated the imagination of generations, inspiring a rich tradition of interpretation and reflection that spans the boundaries of culture and creed. And there he is. Jacob himself, a peculiar character whose journey of transformation and awakening also mirrors the archetypal patterns of the human soul. Jacob is at this pivotal moment in his life. We find him in a state of vulnerability and transition, fleeing the wrath of his brother Esau and seeking refuge in the wilderness of his own psyche. It is here, in the liminal space between the known and the unknown, that Jacob experiences a profound and mysterious vision, a dream that will forever alter the course of his destiny. As the book of Genesis recounts, "And he came to a certain place and stayed there that night, because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones of the place, he put it under his head and lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it." This striking celestial ladder, with its angelic traffic ascending and descending, has long been interpreted as a symbol of the dynamic communication between earth and heaven, the continuous flow of divine energy and communication that sustains the cosmos. The ladder starts from earth, the top reaches heaven. The above and the below communicate, the high and the low, the man and the god, the sacred and the profane, the temporary and the eternal. These are all different points on the continuous stream of consciousness. Jacob's ladder represents the essential unity and interdependence of all levels of reality, from the most material to the most spiritual. It is a powerful symbol of the human soul's capacity to transcend its finite limitations and participate in the infinite life of the divine. A reminder that even in our darkest and most isolated moments, we are never truly alone or separated from the source of all being. This theme of spiritual ascent and divine communion is further elaborated in the Jewish mystical tradition of Kabbalah, where Jacob's ladder is seen as a metaphor for the soul's journey through the various levels of existence. As the 13th century Kabbalist Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, known as Nachmanides, wrote in his commentary on the Torah, "The ladder alludes to the secret of the upper worlds and the lower worlds, and the secret of the soul that ascends and descends upon it. For the soul of man is called the lamp of God, as it is written, the spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord. And just as a lamp is kindled from the supernal light, so too the soul of man is a portion of God above." In this Kabbalistic interpretation, Jacob's ladder becomes a potent symbol of the soul's divine origin and its ultimate destiny, a map of the spiritual journey that each individual must undertake in order to realize their true nature and purpose. The ascending and descending angels represent the various stages and challenges of this journey, the forces of light and darkness that the soul must navigate in order to ascend to the highest rungs of cosmic consciousness. This vision of the soul's ascent finds its most vivid and enduring expression in the work of the English mystic and poet William Blake, whose iconic painting, Jacob's Ladder, captures the numinous power and beauty of the biblical scene. In Blake's rendering, the ladder stretches from the sleeping figure of Jacob to the radiant sun above, its winding form echoing the spiral path of spiritual evolution. Along its length, the angelic beings appear as fluid and dynamic forms, their bodies intertwined in a cosmic dance of energy and transformation. For Blake, as for many visionary artists and thinkers, Jacob's Ladder was not merely a static symbol, but a living and dynamic reality, a portal to the infinite dimensions of the imagination. As he wrote, "I have conversed with the spiritual sun. I saw him on Primrose Hill. He said, 'Do you take me for the Greek Apollo?' I said, 'No. That fable is but a shadow of the truth. Thou art the spiritual sun, the divine humanity. I know thee. I have seen thee in the faces of men. Thou risest over London, over the whole earth. Thy beams are wings, the sun is a dove, the rainbow is thy bow.'" In Blake's visionary cosmology, the spiritual sun represents the highest and most luminous aspect of the divine nature, the source of all life and consciousness that illuminates the world with its radiant beams. The rainbow, in turn, represents the spectrum of colors and energies that flow from this central source, the diversity and beauty of creation that is contained within the unity of the divine. For Blake, as for many mystical thinkers, the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey is to awaken to this inner sun, to realize the divine humanity that dwells within each individual soul. This process of awakening is often depicted as a kind of alchemical transformation, a purification and transmutation of the lower nature into the gold of spiritual realization. In this alchemical understanding, Jacob's Ladder becomes a symbol of the great work of spiritual transformation, the arduous and often perilous journey of the soul as it ascends through the various stages of initiation and illumination. The ladder of Jacob's dream is the spiritual path, the process of realization and union that leads the soul from multiplicity to the ultimate unity of the divine. The point where the ascending and descending currents meet represents the state of the realized human being, the one who has achieved the supreme identity of the individual self with the universal self. This theme of the soul's journey to divine union is beautifully expressed in the Sufi mystical tradition. As the 13th century Persian poet and mystic Rumi wrote in his poem "The Sun Must Come," "Since love has made ruins of my heart, the sun must come and illumine them. Such generosity has broken me with shame. The king prayed for me and granted me his prayer. How many times, just to calm me, did he show his face? I said, I saw his face, but it was only a veil. He charred a universe through the flaming out of this veil. Oh my God, how could such a king ever be unveiled? Love reared in front of me and I followed him. He turned and seized me like an eagle. What a blessing it was to be his prey. I plunged into a sea of ecstasy and fled all pain. If anguish is not delicious meat for you, it is because you have never tasted this wine. The prophets accept all agony and trust it, for the water has never feared the fire. For Rumi, as for the great spiritual masters of all traditions, the journey of the soul is a journey of continual transformation and transcendence, a process of growth and evolution that leads from the dust of the earth to the highest realms of divine reality. Jacob's dream of the ladder, in this understanding, becomes a powerful metaphor for the innate human potential for spiritual awakening and realization, a reminder that even in the midst of our earthly struggles and limitations, we are always connected to the infinite source of life and love. Ultimately, the story of Jacob's Ladder invites us to embark on our own journey of transformation and ascent, to awaken to the divine presence that dwells within and around us at all times. Like Jacob, we may find ourselves lost and alone in the wilderness of our own lives, struggling with the shadows and demons of our past and the uncertainties of our future. Yet even in our darkest and most isolated moments, we are never truly separated from the source of all being, the divine ground that sustains and animates the cosmos. As we gaze upon the luminous vision of the ladder, with its angels ascending and descending in an eternal dance of energy and light, we are reminded of our own sacred potential, our own capacity to rise above the limitations of our finite existence and participate in the infinite life of the divine. May we, like Jacob, have the courage and the faith to embrace this vision, to take up the challenge of the spiritual ascent, and dare to dream of a world transformed by the power of love and wisdom. And may we, like Blake, awaken to the radiant sun that shines within each human soul, the divine spark that illuminates the world with its eternal and ever-present light. Lucifer, the morning star, the bearer of light. Few entities evoke such a profound intensity and multi-layered symbolism as Lucifer. Originating from the Latin term lux ferae, meaning light-bearer, Lucifer embodied realms as disparate as shining wisdom and sinister rebellion across centuries of theological and literary rivers of ink. The biblical origins of Lucifer are sparse, with the name itself appearing only once in the Old Testament. Isaiah 14:12 states, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations?" This passage, in context, refers to the hubristic downfall of the Babylonian king, yet early Christian exegetes, such as Origen and Tertullian, began to interpret it as an allegorical reference to the fall of a prideful angel from divine grace. This nascent connection between Lucifer and a rebellious celestial being was further elaborated in the pseudepigraphal Book of Enoch, which describes the angelic watchers who descend to earth, marry human women, and share forbidden knowledge. Though not explicitly named, this narrative establishes key themes that would come to be associated with the Luciferian archetype: transgression of divine boundaries, intellectual hubris, and the corruption of purity. It is in John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost that the figure of Lucifer achieves his most indelible and influential form. Synthesizing prior biblical and mythological currents, Milton paints a vivid psychological portrait of the archetypal rebel, driven by wounded pride and a perverse sense of injured merit. The mind is its own place and in itself, can make a heaven of hell a hell of heaven. What matter where, if I be still the same, and what I should be, all but less than he, whom thunder hath made greater? Isn't this the human struggle for autonomy and self-definition, the Promethean urge to shape one's own destiny, even in opposition to the dictates of divine authority? This romantic rebranding of Lucifer can also be observed in the works of Blake, Shelley and Byron, who saw in the fallen angel a kindred spirit of defiance and liberation, a light-bearer in the cause of human freedom and illumination. Yet even as the literary Lucifer accrued more sympathetic and heroic dimensions, the figure retained its aura of seductive menace, a gentleman, a playboy, and a thug. Its association with the shadow side of the psyche and the perilous allure of the forbidden is notorious. Yet the figure of Lucifer is not simply a one-dimensional embodiment of evil or rebellion. In the esoteric and occult traditions of the West, Lucifer has often been seen as an ambivalent entity, a symbol of enlightenment and liberation, as well as of pride and deception. In the Gnostic tradition, for example, the serpent in the Garden of Eden is sometimes interpreted as a heroic figure, a bringer of knowledge and freedom who defies the tyranny of the demiurge, the false creator god, who seeks to keep humanity in a state of ignorance and slavery. In this radical reinterpretation of the biblical narrative, Lucifer becomes a Promethean figure, a rebel against the established order who sacrifices himself for the sake of human enlightenment. This positive view of Lucifer as a liberator and lightbringer has found expression in various esoteric and artistic movements throughout history, from the medieval Cathars and the Rosicrucians to the Romantic poets and the modern Luciferian occultists. In these traditions, Lucifer is often associated with the figure of the magician or the hermetic sage, the intrepid seeker of hidden knowledge who dares to transgress the boundaries of conventional thought and morality in the pursuit of spiritual illumination. Lucifer, the liberator and enlightener that has been taken up by various esoteric and artistic movements throughout history, from the Romantic poets of the 19th century to the modern Satanic temple. A few years pass by, and Dante writes his Inferno, where the pilgrim's descent into the underworld culminates in a face-to-face encounter with Lucifer in hell. Lucifer is depicted as a grotesque three-faced monster trapped in the frozen depths of hell, forever chewing on the bodies of history's greatest traitors. This image of the devil as a once glorious angel who has been transformed into a hideous beast through his own pride and rebellion became a staple of Christian art and literature, from the works of Milton and Goethe to the popular imagination of the present day. But there's a stronger message here. Only by facing this inversive reflection of the divine can Dante begin his ascent to the luminous heights of paradise, having integrated the darkness and light within his own soul. Rebellion and enlightenment, pride and liberation, sin and self-actualization. Lucifer, in his various guises and manifestations, is a powerful way to examine the deepest existential questions of human nature and the struggle for spiritual autonomy. From a depth psychological angle, Lucifer can be understood as a manifestation of the Jungian shadow, that unconscious repository of repressed desires, impulses and qualities that the ego deems unacceptable. In confronting and integrating Lucifer, the individual undergoes a profound process of psychological transformation and expansion of consciousness, an important piece in the puzzle of individuation. The story of Lucifer's fall from grace and subsequent role as tempter and adversary represents the ego's fear of the unconscious and the painful but necessary process of integrating the darker aspects of the self. You can't know the good if you don't know the bad. This theme of the shadow's redemption is beautifully expressed in the Jungian concept of the coincidentia oppositorum, the union of opposites that is necessary for true spiritual transformation. As Jung himself wrote in his seminal work Ion, the self is made manifest in the opposites and in the conflict between them. It is a coincidentia oppositorum, hence the way to the self begins with conflict. Therefore, the mysterious, alluring and mythical symbol of Lucifer acts in a way as a divine version of our wrestling with notions of good and evil, rebellion and authority, pride and punishment. As above, so below. However, whether viewed as a tragic hero or a malevolent tempter, an externalized metaphor or an inner psychic reality, this bringer of light continues to hold incredible significance. Its influence is comparable only to that of God, and casts a long shadow over our moral and imaginative universes. As Milton's Satan declares, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven," a statement that captures the perennial Luciferian tension between the yearning for self-sovereignty and the dread of alienation from the divine ground of being. Lucifer remains a deeply ambivalent figure, a shapeshifter, a symbol of the double-edged nature of knowledge and power. The Luciferian quest for enlightenment is always fraught with danger and temptation, the risk of succumbing to the pride and self-delusion that one seeks to transcend. As Mephistopheles warns Faust in Goethe's classic rendition of the tale, the spirit I that endlessly denies, and rightly so, since everything created in turn deserves to be annihilated. This is the final archetypal adversary. This is the paradoxical condition of our consciousness, poised between angel and beast, forever reaching for the heavens while rooted in the earth. The Luciferian myth invites us to resist simplistic dualisms and instead embrace the complex, often ambiguous nature of the human psyche in its ceaseless negotiation of the boundaries between self and other, knowledge and innocence, freedom and fate. It is in this liminal, in-between space that the real work of moral and psychological growth occurs, as we learn to integrate the shadow and the light, the Luciferian and the divine, within the crucible of our own being. In this light, Lucifer's rebellion against God is not the act of sinful pride they teach you in school, but a necessary stage in the soul's journey towards wholeness and self-realization. If this is not natural, why are all children rebelling in one way or another against their parents at certain ages? Whether seen as a demonic tempter or a heroic liberator, a symbol of pride or a catalyst for transformation, Lucifer remains a potent and enduring archetype, a mirror of our deepest aspirations and fears, and retains a certain tragic grandeur, a Promethean defiance in the face of an absurd and incomplete universe. The Luciferian spirit, in its endless striving and questioning, its refusal to submit to any external authority or limit, represents the ineradicable human desire for meaning and transcendence, even in the face of ultimate futility and defeat. By confronting and embracing the Luciferian aspects of our own nature, the desire for knowledge, autonomy, and self-determination, we paradoxically open ourselves to the possibility of divine grace and spiritual illumination. But now we are confronted with the ultimate questions of our own existence: the nature of good and evil, the price of knowledge and power, the possibility of redemption and grace. In the end, perhaps the true significance of Lucifer lies not in any definitive answer or interpretation, but in the act of questioning and seeking itself, the ongoing struggle to comprehend the mysteries of the self and the cosmos. In this sense, the Luciferian journey is ultimately a reflection of the broader human quest for meaning and purpose, the eternal search for the divine spark within the depths of our own being. As we venture into the shadows of the psyche and the labyrinths of the soul, we may find that the light we seek is not some distant external illumination, but the fire of consciousness that burns within us, the Promethean flame of our own inner divinity. In the last heaven, Moses saw two angels, each 500 parasangs in height, forged out of chains of black fire and red fire, the angels Af, anger, and Hema, wrath, whom God created at the beginning of the world, to execute his will. Moses was disquieted when he looked upon them, but Metatron embraced him and said, "Moses, Moses, thou favourite of God, fear not and be not terrified." And Moses became calm. There was another angel in the seventh heaven, different in appearance from all the others, and of frightful mien. His height was so great it would have taken 500 years to cover a distance equal to it, and from the crown of his head to the soles of his feet he was studded with glaring eyes. "This one," said Metatron, addressing Moses, "is Samael, who takes the soul away from man." "Whither goes he now?" asked Moses, and Metatron replied, "To fetch the soul of Job the pious." Thereupon Moses prayed to God in these words, "O may it be thy will, my God and the God of my fathers, not to let me fall into the hands of this angel." This was an excerpt from the apocryphal Gedulat Moshe, the Apocalypse of Moses, the Ascension of Moses, in the Legends of the Jews by Louis Ginzberg. In Abrahamic angelology, the figure of Samael is another mysterious presence, a shadowy archon whose role and nature have been the subject of much speculation and debate. Variously depicted as a fallen angel, a demonic adversary, and a dark reflection of the divine, Samael embodies the profound ambivalence and moral character that is familiar to the Jewish and Christian understanding of evil and its place in the cosmic order. The name Samael is of uncertain origin and meaning, with various interpretations ranging from venom of God to blindness of God to left hand of God. This semantic ambiguity reflects the multifaceted and often contradictory nature of Samael's character, which shifts and transforms across different textual traditions and historical periods. In the earliest strata of Jewish literature, Samael appears as a relatively minor angelic figure, one of the many celestial beings that populate the heavenly realms. In the Book of Enoch, for example, Samael is mentioned briefly as one of the archangels who rebels against God, and is cast down from heaven along with his fellow fallen angels. It is in the later Talmudic and Midrashic literature, however, that Samael begins to take on a more central and sinister role, emerging as a demonic adversary and tempter of humanity. In these texts, Samael is often identified with the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the one who seduces Eve and brings about the fall of man. He is also associated with the figure of Satan or the devil, the cosmic antagonist who opposes God's will and seeks to lead humanity astray. Yet even in these more negative portrayals, Samael retains a certain ambivalence and complexity, a clue to his former angelic nature and his place within the divine order. In some traditions, Samael is seen as a necessary evil, a tempter and tester who serves to strengthen the faith and virtue of the righteous. In others, he is portrayed as a tragic figure, a once glorious angel who fell through pride and jealousy, but who still retains a spark of divine light. This theme of the fallen angel as a mirror of the divine is further developed in the Kabbalistic tradition, where Samael takes on a central role in the cosmic drama of creation and redemption. In the Zohar, the foundational text of Jewish mysticism, Samael is depicted as the left hand of God, the dark side of the divine nature that must be integrated and redeemed in order for the world to be made whole. In this esoteric reading, Samael is not simply an evil adversary, but a necessary aspect of the divine pleroma, the fullness of God's being that encompasses both light and darkness, good and evil. The fall of Samael and the other rebel angels is seen as a reflection of the larger process of divine emanation and withdrawal, the cosmic drama of creation and restoration that lies at the heart of Kabbalistic thought. This idea of Samael as a dark mirror of the divine finds echoes in various Gnostic and esoteric Christian traditions as well, where the figure of the demiurge or the false creator god is often associated with Samael and the fallen angels. In these systems, Samael represents the ego and the individual will, the aspect of the psyche that rebels against the higher divine order and seeks to establish its own rulership. From a depth psychological perspective, the story of Samael can be seen as a powerful archetype of the shadow, the dark and rejected aspects of the self that must be confronted and integrated in order for wholeness and individuation to occur. In this reading, Samael represents the repressed desires and impulses that we seek to deny or project onto others, the inner adversary that must be faced and transformed in the process of spiritual growth. This theme of the confrontation with the shadow is beautifully expressed in the Jewish legend of the Talmudic sage Rabbi Meir, who is said to have learned the deepest secrets of the Torah from the fallen angel Samael himself. According to the story, Rabbi Meir was able to confront and subdue Samael through his superior knowledge and righteousness, transforming the demon into a servant of the divine will. In this tale, as in many others, Samael emerges as a symbol of the darkness and negativity that must be overcome in the quest for spiritual illumination. Yet he is also a reminder of the ultimate unity and interdependence of all things, the fundamental truth that light and darkness, good and evil, are but two sides of the same divine reality. We are challenged to confront the shadows within our own psyche again and again, to reconcile the opposing forces that shape our inner and outer worlds forever. In the end, perhaps the true significance of this dark angel lies not in his role as adversary or tempter, but in his function as a catalyst for transformation and growth, a reminder of the necessity of embracing both the light and the darkness on the path to wholeness and liberation. In the haunting and enigmatic tales of the ancient apocalyptic literature, the figure of the Watchers are a symbol of the blurred boundaries between the earthly and the celestial. These mysterious beings, first mentioned in the Book of Daniel and later elaborated in the apocryphal Book of Enoch, have captured the imagination of generations of theologians, mystics and scholars, inspiring a rich tradition of speculation and interpretation. According to the Enochic narrative, the Watchers are a group of angelic beings who are sent down to earth to guide and protect humanity. However, they soon become enamored of the beauty of mortal women and descend further to mate with them, giving birth to a race of hybrid giants known as the Nephilim. The Watchers also teach their human consorts various arts and sciences, including metallurgy, astrology and magic, thus introducing knowledge and culture to the world. Yet this sharing of divine secrets is seen as a transgression of the cosmic order, a violation of the boundaries between the earthly and the heavenly realms. As punishment for their disobedience, the Watchers are banished from heaven and condemned to wander the earth until the final judgment. Their offspring, the Nephilim, are portrayed as monstrous and destructive beings whose presence on earth brings chaos and violence. The story of the Watchers has often been interpreted as a mythological explanation for the origin of evil and suffering in the world, a cautionary tale about the dangers of overstepping divine boundaries and seeking forbidden knowledge. In this reading, the Watchers represent the hubris and rebellion of the angelic realm, the dark side of the spiritual quest that can lead to downfall and ruin. Yet the figure of the Watchers also has a more positive and transformative aspect, one that speaks to the deep human longing for transcendence and the acquisition of divine wisdom. In some esoteric traditions, the Watchers are seen as bringers of light and knowledge, angelic teachers who sacrifice their own celestial status in order to aid humanity in its spiritual evolution. This theme of the fallen angel as a source of hidden wisdom is particularly prominent in the Gnostic tradition, where the Watchers are often associated with the figure of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. In this radical reinterpretation of the biblical narrative, the serpent is seen as a heroic rebel against the tyranny of the demiurge, the false creator god who seeks to keep humanity imprisoned in a state of ignorance and material bondage. By tempting Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, the serpent watcher initiates the process of human awakening and liberation, setting in motion the cosmic drama of Gnostic salvation. In this sense, the fall of the Watchers is seen not as a tragic mistake, but as a necessary stage in the unfolding of divine revelation, a sacrificial descent into matter that makes possible the eventual ascent of the soul. This idea of the Watcher as a mediator between the human and the divine is further developed in the Hermetic and alchemical traditions, where angelic beings are often invoked as guides and initiators on the path of spiritual transformation. In these esoteric systems, the Watchers represent the higher aspects of the self, the divine spark within that must be awakened and nurtured through the practice of contemplation, purification, and inner alchemy. Psychologically speaking, the story of the Watchers is a powerful archetype of the individuation process, the journey of self-discovery and integration that leads to the realization of the true self. In this reading, the Watchers are the archetypal forces of the collective unconscious, the numinous and often terrifying powers that must be confronted and assimilated in order for psychic wholeness to be achieved. The descent of the Watchers into the material world can thus be understood as a symbolic representation of the ego's descent into the depths of the psyche, the necessary confrontation with the shadow and the anima animus that is required for true self-knowledge and transformation. The mating of the Watchers with human women also suggests the integration of the masculine and feminine aspects of the psyche, the sacred marriage of opposites that gives birth to the divine child of enlightenment. Yet the story of the Watchers is also a warning about the dangers of spiritual inflation and the misuse of sacred knowledge. The hubris of the fallen angels, their desire to possess and control the secrets of heaven, can be seen as a metaphor for the ego's tendency to identify with the archetypes and to claim divine status for itself. This theme of the shadow side of the spiritual quest is beautifully expressed in the Sufi concept of the nafs, the lower self or ego that must be purified and transformed in order for union with the divine to be achieved. In this understanding, the Watchers represent the temptations and illusions of the nafs, the false gods that must be dethroned in order for the true self to emerge. The enduring fascination with the Watchers speaks to the deep human longing for contact with the numinous, the desire to bridge the gap between the finite and the infinite, the mortal and the divine. Whether seen as rebellious angels or as bringers of forbidden wisdom, the Watchers keep the mysteries and challenges of the spiritual path alive, reminding us of the ultimate unity of light and darkness, good and evil, in the great cosmic dance of creation. Now, of course, the Watchers are within our own psyche. Shall you embrace the shadow and the light in the alchemical quest for wholeness and transformation? For in the end, the true significance of the Watchers may lie not in their historical or mythological reality, but in their function as mirrors of the human soul, reflecting back to us the divine spark that dwells within the depths of our own being. In the mysterious and often terrifying scenes of ancient Hebraic mythology, few figures cast as long a shadow as the Nephilim, the enigmatic offspring of the Watchers and mortal women. These monstrous and mighty beings, whose name literally means the fallen ones in Hebrew, have captured the imagination of generations of theologians, mystics, and scholars, inspiring a rich tradition of speculation and interpretation that continues to this day. The Nephilim are first mentioned briefly in the book of Genesis, where they are described as the progeny of the sons of God and the daughters of men, a cryptic reference that has been the subject of much debate and controversy. Some interpreters have seen in this passage a literal account of the mating of angelic beings with human women, while others have understood it as a metaphorical representation of the corruption and violence that pervaded the earth in the days before the flood. It is in the apocryphal book of Enoch, however, that the Nephilim take on their full mythological and symbolic significance. In this esoteric text, the Nephilim are portrayed as gigantic and powerful beings endowed with superhuman strength and knowledge, but also consumed by violence and depravity. They are the embodiment of the chaotic and destructive forces that threaten the divine order, the monstrous progeny of the fallen angels, who have transgressed the boundaries between heaven and earth. From a depth psychological perspective, the Nephilim can be understood as a powerful archetype of the shadow, the dark and rejected aspects of the psyche that must be confronted and integrated in the process of individuation. In this reading, the monstrous offspring of the Watchers represent the unacknowledged and repressed contents of the collective unconscious, the primal instincts and desires that are excluded from the conscious self-image of the individual and society. The gigantic stature and superhuman powers of the Nephilim also suggest the inflated and grandiose aspects of the ego, the tendency towards hubris and self-aggrandizement that can lead to destruction and downfall. In this sense, the Nephilim serve as a warning against the dangers of over-identification with the archetypal powers of the psyche, the need for humility and self-restraint in the face of the numinous and the unknown. This theme of the Nephilim as a symbol of the untamed and unintegrated aspects of the psyche is further elaborated in the Kabbalistic tradition, where the monstrous offspring of the fallen angels are associated with the concept of the husks or shells, kelipot, that encase and obscure the divine sparks of creation. In this esoteric understanding, the Nephilim represent the forces of darkness and impurity that must be shattered and transformed in the process of tikkun, the cosmic restoration of the world to its original state of harmony and unity. The struggle against the Nephilim thus becomes a metaphor for the spiritual and psychological work of purification and redemption, the alchemical process of separating the dross from the gold in the crucible of the soul. This theme of the hero's battle against the monstrous forces of chaos and destruction is a recurring motif in mythologies across cultures, from the Babylonian Enuma Elish to the Norse Ragnarok to the Christian apocalypse. In each of these narratives, the Nephilim-like figures serve as the embodiment of the primordial chaos that threatens the cosmic order, the dark and chthonic powers that must be vanquished in order for creation to be renewed and regenerated. The hero's victory over these monstrous adversaries is thus a symbolic representation of the triumph of consciousness over the unconscious, of the light of the spirit over the darkness of matter. Yet the Nephilim also have a more ambivalent and nuanced significance. In some interpretations, the Nephilim are seen as tragic figures, the offspring of a divine human union that is ultimately doomed by the incompatibility of the two natures. In this reading, the Nephilim represent the human longing for transcendence and divine knowledge, the Faustian striving to overcome the limitations of mortal existence and to partake of the power and wisdom of the gods. The destruction of the Nephilim in the great flood of biblical tradition thus becomes a symbol of the ultimate futility of this striving, the inevitable collapse of the tower of human pride and ambition in the face of divine omnipotence. From a cultural historical perspective, the myth of the Nephilim can also be seen as a reflection of the ancient Israelite struggle to establish and maintain a distinct religious and national identity in the face of the polytheistic and syncretistic cultures of the ancient Near East. The monstrous offspring of the fallen angels and human women may represent the perceived threat of foreign cultural and religious influences, the danger of assimilation and loss of identity in a world of competing deities and worldviews. In this context, the destruction of the Nephilim in the flood can be understood as a metaphorical purging of the foreign elements that threaten the purity and integrity of the Israelite faith, a reassertion of the unique covenant between Yahweh and his chosen people. The myth thus serves as a cultural tool for defining and reinforcing the boundaries of the community, a symbolic expression of the need to maintain separation and distinctiveness in the face of external pressures and temptations. Ultimately, the mysteries and ambiguities of existence continue. We still need to explore the unknown aspects of ourselves and the world around us, whether seen as monstrous adversaries or tragic heroes, as symbols of the untamed psyche or the perils of divine human hybridization. The Nephilim continue to haunt the edges of our collective imagination, beckoning us to explore the shadowy borderlands between the mortal and the divine. The Nephilim are also within our own psyches. We have to acknowledge and integrate the rejected and repressed aspects of ourselves that we project onto the monstrous other. In doing so, we may come to recognize the ultimate interdependence of light and darkness, good and evil, in the great syzygy of creation and destruction. For in the end, the myth of the Nephilim is a paradoxical unity of opposites that we share, the inescapable tension between our mortal limitations and our divine aspirations. So embrace this tension, integrate polarities. You may yet find the path to wholeness and redemption, the alchemical transformation of the base matter of our existence into the pure gold of spirit. In this sense, the scholarly and psychological exploration of the Nephilim is a descent into the collective psyche in search of wisdom and self-knowledge. The implications of this ancient myth are terrifying, but we will awake with a renewed sense of purpose and understanding. The Nephilim are symbols to illuminate the human condition, to provide a language and a framework for exploring the deepest mysteries of existence. By engaging with these symbols in a spirit of openness and humility, we may yet find the key to unlocking the secrets of our own souls and to participating more fully in the great cosmic unfolding of creation. The legend of Faust, the scholar who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for knowledge and power, has cast a long and enduring shadow over the Western cultural imagination. From its origins in the medieval German chapbooks to its most famous literary incarnations in the works of Christopher Marlowe and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The Faustian myth is yet another powerful metaphor for the human quest for transcendence and the perils of hubris and overreaching. The Faust story is a tale of temptation and transgression, a cautionary parable about the dangers of seeking to transcend the limits of human knowledge and power. Faust, the brilliant but dissatisfied scholar, is driven by an insatiable thirst for understanding and mastery, a desire to penetrate the secrets of the universe and to wield the power of the gods. In this sense, Faust can be seen as an archetypal representation of the human intellect in its most exalted and reckless form, the embodiment of the Promethean spirit that seeks to steal the fire of divine wisdom and to remake the world in its own image. His pact with the devil, the shadowy figure of Mephistopheles, is a symbolic expression of the willingness to sacrifice one's soul in the pursuit of this forbidden knowledge. From a depth psychological perspective, the Faustian bargain can be understood as a manifestation of the ego's desire for inflation and omnipotence, the hubristic drive to overcome the limitations of the self and to identify with the archetypal powers of the unconscious. In this reading, Mephistopheles represents the shadow side of the psyche, the repressed and rejected aspects of the personality that are projected onto the figure of the demonic tempter. The temptation of Faust thus becomes a metaphor for the confrontation with the shadow, the necessary but perilous descent into the underworld of the unconscious in search of hidden wisdom and power. The price of this knowledge, however, is the loss of the soul, the alienation from one's own humanity, and the severing of the connection to the divine ground of being. This theme of the Faustian bargain as a symbol of the ego's overreach and alienation is powerfully expressed in the work of existentialist philosophers such as Soren Kierkegaard and Martin Heidegger. For these thinkers, the Faustian quest represents the ultimate expression of the human condition in its state of fallenness and inauthenticity, the futile attempt to escape the anguish and finitude of existence through the illusory pursuit of absolute knowledge and control. In Kierkegaard's The Sickness Unto Death, for example, the figure of the demonic individual is described as one who seeks to assert the self in defiance of the divine, to create a false and autonomous identity that is divorced from the true ground of being. This demonic state, which Kierkegaard sees as the ultimate form of despair, is the logical endpoint of the Faustian quest, the inevitable result of the attempt to elevate the finite self to the status of the infinite. Similarly, in Heidegger's Being and Time, the Faustian striving for mastery and domination is seen as a manifestation of the forgetfulness of being, the fallen state of human existence that is characterized by the objectification and manipulation of the world. For Heidegger, the Faustian pact is a symbol of the modern technological worldview, the reduction of all things to mere resources to be exploited and controlled in the service of human will. Yet Faust is not merely a negative or cautionary tale, but also a deeply ambivalent and multifaceted symbol of the human condition in all its complexity and contradiction. In Goethe's famous rendering of the tale, Faust is portrayed not simply as a reckless overreacher, but as a tragic hero, a flawed but noble seeker after truth and meaning in a world that often seems devoid of both. Goethe's Faust is a man of contradictions, torn between the lofty aspirations of the spirit and the base desires of the flesh, between the quest for knowledge and the longing for love and connection. His journey is one of self-discovery and transformation, a painful but ultimately redemptive process of integrating the disparate elements of his being into a higher synthesis. In this sense, the Faustian myth can be seen as a metaphor for the individuation process, the alchemical work of transmuting the base metal of the personality into the gold of the self. The pact with the devil in this reading is not a literal bargain, but a symbolic representation of the ego's necessary confrontation with its own shadow, the integration of the dark and rejected aspects of the psyche into a more whole and authentic sense of self. This theme of the Faustian quest as a journey of self-realization is taken up by later writers and thinkers, such as the German novelist Thomas Mann and the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. In Mann's novel, Dr. Faustus, the composer Adrian Leverkuhn serves as a modern incarnation of the Faustian archetype, a brilliant but tormented artist who sacrifices his humanity for the sake of his art. For Mann, the Faustian bargain is a symbol of the crisis of modern culture, the sellout of the human spirit to the forces of nihilism and despair. Yet it is also a necessary step in the dialectical process of cultural renewal, the descent into the abyss that precedes the emergence of a new and more integrated form of consciousness. Similarly, for Jung, the Faustian myth is a powerful expression of the archetypal process of individuation, the lifelong journey of self-discovery and self-realization that is the goal of the psyche. In his essay, The Spirit Mercurius, Jung draws on alchemical symbolism to interpret the figure of Faust as an embodiment of the mercurial spirit, the dynamic and transformative power that drives the process of psychic growth. For Jung, the pact with Mephistopheles is a necessary stage in this process, the confrontation with the shadow that precedes the integration of the unconscious and the emergence of the self. The ultimate goal of the Faustian quest in this reading is not the attainment of godlike power or knowledge, but the realization of one's own fullest potential as a unique and individuated being. Ultimately, the enduring power of the Faustian myth lies in its ability to capture the deepest yearnings and conflicts of the human spirit, the eternal tension between the desire for transcendence and the acceptance of limitation, between the quest for meaning and the confrontation with absurdity. Whether seen as a cautionary tale or a heroic journey, as a symbol of hubris or a metaphor for self-realization, the figure of Faust continues to haunt the Western imagination, inviting us to face who we are. As we engage with this rich and multifaceted myth from a variety of perspectives, literary, philosophical, psychological, cultural, we are challenged to confront our own Faustian impulses and aspirations, to examine the ways in which we seek to transcend our own limitations and to assert our will in the world. In doing so, we may come to a deeper understanding of the paradoxical nature of the human condition, the inescapable interplay of light and darkness, creation and destruction that exists within all myths and stories. Ultimately, the tale of Faust is a mirror held up to the human soul in all its complexity and contradiction, a reflection of our deepest hopes and fears, our noblest aspirations, and our darkest desires. By understanding this powerful and enduring symbol, we may yet find the wisdom and courage to live our own lives, to embrace both the possibilities and the limitations of our finite existence in a world of infinite mystery and wonder. Throughout human history, demons haunted the collective imagination, the dark and destructive forces that threaten the integrity of the individual and the social order, the malevolent spirits of ancient Mesopotamian mythology, the fallen angels of Judeo-Christian tradition, the possessing entities of medieval demonology, the psychological complexes of modern depth psychology. Demons have taken on a variety of forms and functions, reflecting the ever-shifting fears and fascinations of the cultures that gave rise to them. At their core, however, demons can be understood as personifications of the shadow side of the human psyche, the repressed and rejected aspects of the self that are projected onto the figure of the monstrous other. In this sense, before the demon is an external threat or a supernatural entity, he is a manifestation of the unintegrated and unacknowledged contents of the unconscious mind, the dark and chaotic forces that lurk beneath the surface of the civilized persona. This understanding of the demonic as a psychological and symbolic phenomenon is deeply rooted in the Western esoteric tradition, particularly in the works of Renaissance magi, such as Marsilio Ficino and Cornelius Agrippa. For these thinkers, demons were not simply evil spirits to be exorcised or avoided, but powerful and ambivalent entities that could be harnessed and transformed through the art of magic and the process of self-knowledge. In his treatise, De Vita Coelitus Comparanda, on obtaining life from the heavens, Ficino argues that the key to spiritual and psychological wholeness lies in the integration of the demonic forces within the psyche, the alchemical transmutation of the lower nature into the gold of the higher self. Through the use of astral magic and theurgic ritual, the magus seeks to align himself with the celestial powers and to purify his soul of its demonic influences, achieving a state of harmony and illumination. Similarly, in his De Occulta Philosophia, on the occult philosophy, Agrippa presents a complex system of correspondences between the human microcosm and the celestial macrocosm, in which the various demons and spirits are understood as reflections of the different aspects and faculties of the human soul. By learning to recognize and master these inner forces, the magician can achieve a state of spiritual and psychological sovereignty, becoming the ruler of his own inner kingdom. This theme of the demon as a symbol of the unintegrated psyche is taken up and developed by later depth psychologists such as Carl Jung and Erich Neumann. For Jung, the figure of the demon represents the archetypal shadow, the dark and rejected aspects of the personality that must be confronted and integrated in the process of individuation. In his essay, The Philosophical Tree, Jung writes, "The shadow is a moral problem that challenges the whole ego personality, for no one can become conscious of the shadow without considerable moral effort. To become conscious of it involves recognizing the dark aspects of the personality as present and real." For Jung, the integration of the shadow is not a matter of moral condemnation or suppression, but rather a process of conscious assimilation and transformation. By acknowledging and embracing the demonic aspects of the psyche, the individual can achieve a greater sense of wholeness and authenticity, a more complete and balanced expression of the self. This process of integration is often symbolically represented in mythological and religious traditions as the hero's descent into the underworld, the confrontation with the monstrous forces of chaos and darkness that guard the treasures of the unconscious. In the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, for example, the hero must journey to the depths of the earth to confront the demon Humbaba, the guardian of the sacred cedar forest. Only by defeating this fearsome adversary can Gilgamesh gain access to the wisdom and power that will enable him to become a true king and a fully realized human being. Similarly, in the Jungian interpretation of the Christian myth of the harrowing of hell, Christ's descent into the underworld is seen as a symbolic representation of the process of individuation, the integration of the shadow and the redemption of the unredeemed aspects of the psyche. By confronting and assimilating the demonic forces within his own being, Christ becomes a model for the transformative journey that each individual must undertake in order to achieve psychological and spiritual wholeness. This theme of the demon as a catalyst for transformation is further developed in the archetypal psychology of James Hillman, who sees the demonic not as a negative or destructive force, but as a necessary and even sacred aspect of the psyche. For Hillman, the demon represents the autonomous, creative power of the imagination, the source of the archetypes and symbols that give shape and meaning to human experience. In this sense, the demon is not an enemy to be overcome, but a vital and essential part of the psychic ecosystem, a force that challenges and provokes us to grow and evolve. By engaging with the demonic in a spirit of curiosity and respect, we can tap into the transformative power of the imagination and access the deeper layers of the psyche that are the source of our creativity and vitality. This idea of the sacred demon is also central to many indigenous and shamanic traditions, which view the spirit world as a realm of powerful and often ambivalent forces that must be negotiated and collaborated with in order to maintain balance and harmony in the cosmos. In these traditions, the shaman acts as a mediator between the human and the spiritual realms, entering into a dialogue with the demons and spirits in order to gain their assistance and wisdom. This shamanic perspective on the demonic has been taken up by many contemporary spiritual and esoteric traditions, which seek to integrate the insights of depth psychology with the practices and cosmologies of indigenous spirituality. In the neo-shamanic movement, for example, the demon is often seen as a powerful ally or teacher, a source of guidance and transformation that can be accessed through techniques of trance, drumming, and ritual. Similarly, in the contemporary Western magical tradition, the demon is often invoked as a source of knowledge and power, a being that can be summoned and communicated with through the use of ceremonial magic and ritual. In the system of Enochian magic, for example, the demons are understood as the governors and ministers of the elemental realms, the forces that regulate the flow of energy and information between the spiritual and material worlds. By engaging with these demonic powers in a spirit of respect and collaboration, the magician seeks to gain insight into the deeper structures of reality and to harness their transformative potential for personal and collective growth. This process of working with the demonic requires a high degree of self-awareness and psychological maturity, as well as a willingness to confront and integrate the shadow aspects of the psyche. Ultimately, the figure of the demon in Western esoteric thought serves as a powerful symbol of the complex and often paradoxical nature of the human psyche, the ways in which our deepest fears and desires, our most creative and destructive impulses, are often inextricably intertwined. By learning to acknowledge and work with these demonic forces within ourselves, we can tap into the transformative power of the unconscious and achieve a greater sense of wholeness and integration. At the same time, the esoteric understanding of the demonic also challenges us to confront the ways in which we project our own shadows onto the world around us, the ways in which we demonize and scapegoat those aspects of reality that we fear or reject. By recognizing the demonic as a reflection of our own psyche, we can begin to take responsibility for our own darkness and to work towards a more compassionate and inclusive vision of the world. In this sense, the esoteric engagement with the demonic is not simply a matter of personal psycho-spiritual growth, but also a deeply political and ethical practice, a way of confronting and transforming the collective shadows that haunt our society and our planet. By learning to face our demons, both inner and outer, we can begin to heal the wounds of history and to build a more just and sustainable future for all beings. As we familiarize ourselves with the complex and often frightening realities of the modern world, the ancient wisdom of Western esotericism offers us a powerful set of tools and perspectives for navigating the shadows and unlocking the transformative potential of the demonic. By embracing the darkness within and without, we can begin to glimpse the light that shines at the heart of all things, the sacred spark of consciousness that animates the cosmos and connects us all in a web of interdependence and mutual becoming. May we have the courage and the compassion to face our demons, to listen to their wisdom and to work with their power in service of the greater good. And may we remember that, in the end, the only way out is through, that the path to wholeness and liberation lies not in denial or suppression, but in the fearless embrace of all that we are and all that we might become. Few figures loom as large or command as much reverence as the Archangel Michael. As the supreme commander of the heavenly hosts, the leader of the angelic armies in the cosmic battle against the forces of darkness, Michael occupies a unique and exalted position in the celestial hierarchy, embodying the virtues of strength, courage, and unwavering devotion to the divine will. The name Michael is a question, a challenge, and a declaration of faith. Who is like God? This rhetorical question points to the ultimate unknowability and transcendence of the divine, while also affirming Michael's role as the foremost champion and defender of God's sovereignty. In the biblical tradition, Michael appears as the guardian of Israel, the protector of the righteous, and the vanquisher of the rebellious angels who seek to usurp the throne of heaven. In the book of Daniel, Michael is described as the great prince who has charge of your people, standing firm against the spiritual forces that seek to oppress and destroy the faithful. In the New Testament, particularly in the book of Revelation, Michael is depicted as the leader of the angelic armies that wage war against the dragon, the ancient serpent who is the devil, and Satan, casting him down to the earth and securing the victory of the heavenly realm. These scriptural accounts have given rise to a rich and enduring tradition of veneration and invocation of Michael as the supreme spiritual warrior, the defender of the faith, and the patron saint of soldiers, police officers, and all those who put their lives on the line in service of a higher cause. In Catholic tradition, Michael is one of the three angels mentioned by name in the Bible, along with Gabriel and Raphael, and is honored as one of the 7 archangels who stand in the presence of God. But the significance of Michael extends far beyond his role as a military commander or celestial protector. In the esoteric and mystical traditions of Judaism and Christianity, Michael is seen as a powerful mediator between the human and the divine, a bridge between the material and the spiritual worlds. In the Kabbalah, for example, Michael is associated with the Sephirah of Hod, the sphere of divine splendor and glory, which represents the principle of acknowledgement and gratitude. In this understanding, Michael is not merely a fierce warrior, but also a gentle guide and mentor, a teacher of humility and surrender to the divine will. By aligning ourselves with the energy and consciousness of Michael, we open ourselves to the flow of divine grace and guidance, learning to let go of our own ego-driven agendas and to trust in the larger unfolding of the cosmic plan. This theme of Michael as a spiritual teacher and initiator is further developed in the anthroposophical tradition of Rudolf Steiner, who saw in the archangel a powerful force for the evolution of human consciousness. According to Steiner, Michael is the regent of the cosmic intelligence, the guardian of the cosmic thoughts that seek to incarnate in human minds and hearts. By attuning ourselves to the Michaelic impulse, we can become vessels for the influx of spiritual wisdom and creativity, co-creators in the ongoing transformation of ourselves and our world. At the same time, the figure of Michael also challenges us to confront the forces of darkness and evil that seek to obstruct the path of spiritual evolution. In the anthroposophical view, the dragon that Michael vanquishes represents the Ahrimanic forces of materialism, skepticism, and cold, calculating intellect that would reduce the world to a soulless machine, devoid of meaning and purpose. By taking up the sword of Michael, we commit ourselves to the ongoing battle for the soul of humanity, the struggle to keep alive the flame of the spirit in a world increasingly dominated by the powers of darkness. This Michaelic impulse is not a call to arms in the conventional sense, but rather an invitation to cultivate the inner strength and clarity that can illuminate the shadows and dispel the illusions that cloud our vision and obscure our true purpose. It is a summons to face our own dragons, the fears and doubts and temptations that would pull us off the path of spiritual growth, and to find the courage to slay them with the sword of truth and the shield of faith. In this sense, the archetype of Michael stands as a powerful symbol of the spiritual warrior within each of us, the higher self that is always ready to do battle on behalf of the soul, to defend the integrity and dignity of our own deepest values and aspirations. By invoking the presence and protection of Michael, we call forth the champion and the hero that dwells within, the part of us that is willing to stand firm in the face of adversity, and to fight for what we know to be true and just and noble. At the same time, the figure of Michael also reminds us of the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey, not merely to vanquish the forces of evil, but to transform them, to redeem the fallen, and to restore the broken to wholeness. In the Orthodox Christian tradition, Michael is often depicted holding the scales of justice in one hand and the sword of discernment in the other, signifying his role as the great balancer and harmonizer of the cosmos, the one who weighs the souls of the departed and escorts them to their rightful place in the afterlife. This image of Michael as the psychopomp, the guide of souls, points to the deeper significance of his celestial mission, not simply to destroy the wicked, but to liberate the divine spark that lies hidden within even the darkest and most degraded aspects of creation. By following the example of Michael, we too are called to become instruments of redemption and healing, to seek out the lost and the fallen, and to offer them the light of compassion and understanding. Ultimately, the Archangel Michael stands as a shining beacon of hope and inspiration for all those who seek to walk the path of spiritual transformation, to awaken the divine potential that lies dormant within the depths of the human soul. By attuning ourselves to his presence and invoking his guidance and protection, we open ourselves to the influx of cosmic wisdom and strength that can empower us to become the heroes of our own journey, the spiritual warriors who fight not for personal gain or glory, but for the greater good of all beings. As we navigate the challenges and uncertainties of the modern world, let us remember the timeless message of the Archangel Michael, the call to courage and compassion, to faith and fortitude in the face of the unknown. May we find in his example the inspiration and the strength to take up the sword of the Spirit and to join in the great work of cosmic redemption, the ongoing struggle to manifest the love and light of the divine in every corner of creation. And may we always keep alive the flame of hope and the vision of a world transformed, a world in which the darkness has been vanquished and the new dawn of the Spirit has finally arrived. In the luminous pantheon of Abrahamic angelology, the figure of Gabriel shines forth as a beacon of divine revelation and prophetic inspiration. As the messenger par excellence, the heavenly envoy entrusted with the most momentous tidings in sacred history, Gabriel occupies a unique and pivotal role in the unfolding of the divine plan, bridging the chasm between the eternal realms and the temporal world of human affairs. Gabriel means God is my strength, or man of God, signifying the intimate bond and unwavering devotion that characterize this mighty archangel's relationship to the Almighty. In the scriptural traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Gabriel appears as the bearer of God's word, the celestial herald who announces the birth of prophets and saviors, and the guide who initiates the chosen ones into the mysteries of the divine will. In the Hebrew Bible, Gabriel is first mentioned by name in the book of Daniel, where he appears to the prophet in a series of visions, explaining the meaning of the cosmic drama that is unfolding and revealing the divine plan for the salvation of Israel. Here, Gabriel is described as a man clothed in linen, his face like lightning and his eyes like flaming torches, a fearsome and awe-inspiring figure who speaks with the authority of heaven. In the New Testament, Gabriel takes on an even more prominent role as the angel of the Annunciation, the one who appears to the Virgin Mary and announces the miraculous conception of Jesus Christ. In this moment of supreme significance, Gabriel becomes the emissary of the Incarnation, the celestial midwife who oversees the birth of the God-man and sets in motion the redemptive work of divine love. Similarly, in Islamic tradition, Gabriel is revered as the angel who revealed the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, dictating the sacred verses over a period of 23 years and guiding the nascent Muslim community through the trials and tribulations of its early history. Known in Arabic as Jibril, Gabriel is seen as the most exalted of all the angels, the one who stands closest to the throne of Allah and serves as the intermediary between the divine and human realms. But Gabriel's significance extends far beyond his role as a messenger or herald. In the esoteric and mystical traditions of the Abrahamic faiths, Gabriel is seen as a powerful initiator and guide, a master of the inner paths of spiritual transformation. In the Jewish Kabbalah, for example, Gabriel is associated with the Sephira of Yesod, the sphere of foundation and integration, which serves as the gateway between the physical and spiritual worlds. According to this understanding, Gabriel is the guardian of the threshold, the one who helps the aspirant to navigate the treacherous waters of the unconscious and to anchor the divine energies in the world of form. By attuning ourselves to the vibration of Gabriel, we open ourselves to the influx of prophetic inspiration and creative imagination, tapping into the wellsprings of wisdom and insight that flow from the higher realms. This theme of Gabriel as a master of the imaginal realm is further developed in the Islamic tradition of Sufism, where the archangel is seen as the guide and protector of the mystic's visionary journey. In the writings of Ibn Arabi, the great Andalusian master, Gabriel is described as the universal intellect, the cosmic mind that contains all the archetypes and forms of creation, and the one who unveils the secrets of the divine to the purified heart of the seeker. For Ibn Arabi and other Sufi masters, the encounter with Gabriel represents the pinnacle of spiritual realization, the moment of supreme unveiling when the veils of illusion are lifted and the true nature of reality is revealed in all its luminous splendor. By surrendering to the guidance of Gabriel, the mystic becomes a vessel for the divine wisdom, a mirror that reflects the infinite beauty and majesty of the Absolute. At the same time, the figure of Gabriel also challenges us to confront the shadows and obstacles that block the path of spiritual awakening. In the Islamic tradition, Gabriel is also known as the Holy Spirit, the one who purifies the soul and burns away the dross of ego and attachment. This process of purification is often described as a battle or a test, a trial by fire that strips away all that is false and illusory and reveals the true essence of the self. In this sense, Gabriel becomes a symbol of the spiritual warrior, the one who wields the sword of truth and the shield of faith in the battle against the forces of darkness and ignorance. By invoking the presence and protection of Gabriel, we summon the courage and strength to face our own demons, to confront the fears and doubts that hold us back from our highest potential, and to emerge victorious on the other side. Ultimately, the Archangel Gabriel stands as a shining example of the transformative power of divine revelation, the capacity of the human soul to receive and embody the wisdom and love of the Almighty. By opening ourselves to the guidance and inspiration of Gabriel, we become channels for the flow of prophetic energy, instruments of the divine will in the world of form. As we navigate the challenges and uncertainties of the modern age, let us remember the timeless message of Gabriel, the call to awaken to our true nature as children of the divine and to become agents of transformation and healing in a world that so desperately needs our light and our love. May we find in his example the inspiration and the strength to take up the mantle of the prophet and the mystic, to become the bearers of the sacred word and the embodiments of the divine presence in every moment of our lives. In the celestial symphony of Abrahamic angelology, the Archangel Raphael plays a melody of healing and restoration, a soothing balm for the wounds of body, mind, and spirit. As the patron of travelers, the guardian of the afflicted, and the guide of the lost, Raphael embodies the divine attributes of compassion, protection, and guidance, offering a beacon of hope and solace to all who call upon his name. The name Raphael means God heals, or the medicine of God, signifying the profound restorative power that flows through this benevolent being. In the scriptural traditions of Judaism and Christianity, Raphael appears as a ministering angel, a celestial physician who attends to the needs of the suffering and the infirm, bringing the healing touch of the divine to those in distress. In the Book of Tobit, one of the deuterocanonical texts of the Bible, Raphael plays a central role as the companion and protector of the young Tobias on his perilous journey to Media. Disguised as a human traveler, Raphael guides Tobias through a series of trials and adventures, ultimately helping him to find a bride, restore his father's sight, and recover a fortune that had been lost. Throughout this narrative, Raphael emerges as a wise and compassionate friend, a steady hand in times of trouble, and a faithful servant of the divine will. Beyond his scriptural appearances, Raphael has also been a prominent figure in the esoteric and mystical traditions of Judaism and Christianity. In the Kabbalah, for example, Raphael is associated with the Sephira of Tiferet, the sphere of beauty and harmony that occupies the central place on the tree of life. In this sense, Raphael is the archangel of the sun, the luminous being who radiates the healing and balancing energies of the solar principle. In this capacity, Raphael is seen as a master of the art of alchemy, the spiritual science of transformation and purification. By attuning ourselves to the vibration of Raphael, we open ourselves to the processes of inner transmutation, the gradual refinement of our psychic and spiritual substance until we shine with the golden light of the sun. This alchemical work is not always easy or painless, as it requires us to confront and purge the impurities and imbalances within ourselves. But it is an essential part of the journey towards wholeness and enlightenment. The theme of Raphael as a facilitator of inner alchemy is further developed in the Christian esoteric tradition, particularly in the teachings of modern spiritual masters such as Rudolf Steiner and Valentin Tomberg. According to Steiner, Raphael is one of the great archangelic beings who oversee the evolution of human consciousness, guiding us through the successive stages of our spiritual development. In this role, Raphael is particularly associated with the cultivation of the imaginative faculty, the capacity to perceive and work with the living images and archetypes that underlie the physical world. For Steiner, the development of the imagination is a crucial step in the alchemical transformation of the self, as it allows us to bridge the gap between the sensory and the supersensible realms and to access the higher dimensions of reality. By opening ourselves to the guidance and inspiration of Raphael, we can learn to purify and strengthen our imaginative powers, using them as tools for healing, creativity, and spiritual insight. Similarly, in the work of Valentin Tomberg, Raphael is seen as a key figure in the Hermetic tradition of Christian esotericism, the path of inner regeneration and divinization. According to Tomberg, Raphael is the archangel of the temperance arcanum in the tarot, the guardian of the sacred art of balance and equilibrium. In this capacity, Raphael helps us to harmonize the opposing forces within ourselves, to find the middle way between the extremes of excess and deficiency, and to actualize the divine virtues in the context of our daily lives. This process of inner balancing and harmonization is not a matter of mere compromise or moderation, but rather a dynamic and creative synthesis of the polarities that constitute our being. By learning to hold the tension of the opposites and to find the point of balance between them, we open ourselves to the influx of divine grace and healing that Raphael represents. We become, in a sense, living embodiments of the temperance arcanum, vessels for the alchemical marriage of heaven and earth, spirit and matter, masculine and feminine. Ultimately, the figure of Raphael invites us to recognize and embrace our own inner healer, the wise and compassionate presence that dwells within the depths of our being. By calling upon the assistance and guidance of this luminous archangel, we summon forth the courage and clarity to face our own wounds and shadows, to take responsibility for our own healing and growth, and to become agents of blessing and restoration in the world around us. As we navigate the trials and tribulations of the human journey, let us remember the ever-present grace and protection of Raphael, the divine physician who walks beside us on the path of life. May we find in his example the strength and the tenderness to bear our own suffering with patience and trust, to extend a helping hand to those in need, and to radiate the healing light of love and compassion in every encounter and every moment. And may we always keep in mind the deeper significance of Raphael's ministry, the call to participate in the great work of cosmic alchemy, the ongoing transformation of ourselves and our world in the direction of greater beauty, harmony and wholeness. For in the end, as Raphael himself might remind us, the ultimate medicine is not to be found in any external remedy or technique, but rather in the realization of our own innate divinity, the discovery of the golden sun that shines eternally within the temple of the heart. In the celestial council of Abrahamic angelology, the figure of Uriel stands as a pillar of divine wisdom and illumination, a shining beacon of truth and understanding in the midst of a world shrouded in darkness and ignorance. As the archangel of prophecy and revelation, the interpreter of visions and dreams, Uriel embodies the penetrating insight and lucid perception that pierce the veil of illusion and lay bare the hidden mysteries of heaven and earth. The name Uriel itself means God is my light, or fire of God, signifying the radiant and purifying power that emanates from this exalted being. In the various streams of Jewish and Christian tradition, Uriel appears as a guide and mentor to the souls who seek to ascend the ladder of divine knowledge, a hierophant who initiates the aspirant into the secrets of the cosmos and the depths of the psyche. Though not mentioned by name in the canonical scriptures of the Bible, Uriel is nevertheless a prominent figure in Jewish apocryphal and mystical literature. In the Book of Enoch, for example, Uriel is one of the four great archangels who stand at the four corners of the throne of God, each representing a cardinal direction and a fundamental aspect of creation. Here, Uriel is associated with the south and the element of earth, symbolizing the grounding and manifestation of divine energy in the world of form. In this capacity, Uriel is also the archangel of alchemy and magic, the master of the sacred arts that harness the hidden powers of nature for spiritual transformation and liberation. According to esoteric tradition, it was Uriel who gave the keys of this ancient wisdom to the patriarch Enoch, initiating him into the mysteries of the heavenly realms and the secrets of creation. This theme of Uriel as the guardian and transmitter of occult knowledge is further developed in the medieval and Renaissance traditions of Christian Kabbalah and Hermeticism. In the writings of the great Christian Kabbalist Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, for example, Uriel is invoked as the archangel of the Sephira Netzach, the sphere of victory and manifestation on the tree of life. In this role, Uriel is seen as the ruler of the world of archetypes and ideas, the intermediary between the divine mind and the realm of human understanding. For Pico and other Christian esotericists, the study and contemplation of the angelic hierarchies was a means of ascent and illumination, a way of aligning oneself with the cosmic order and participating in the divine plan. By invoking the presence and guidance of Uriel, the seeker could open themselves to the influx of divine wisdom and insight, tapping into the universal storehouse of knowledge that underlies the manifest world. This understanding of Uriel as a mediator of divine gnosis is also central to the modern esoteric tradition of Martinism, founded by the 18th century French mystic Martinez de Pasqually. In the Martinist system, Uriel is one of the 7 planetary archangels who govern the spiritual evolution of humanity, each representing a stage in the journey of initiation and reintegration. Here, Uriel is associated with the planet Saturn and the principle of cosmic intelligence, the divine spark that animates the universe and seeks to express itself through the vehicle of the human mind. By attuning oneself to the vibration of Uriel, the Martinist initiate seeks to awaken and develop this higher faculty of understanding, rising above the limitations of sensory perception and rational thought to access the direct knowledge of the heart. This process of inner illumination is not without its challenges and dangers, however, as it requires a profound purification and transformation of the psyche. In confronting the revelatory power of Uriel, the seeker must be prepared to face the shadow side of their own nature, the darkness and ignorance that obscure the light of truth within. Only by passing through this crucible of self-knowledge and self-mastery can one hope to receive the full benediction of Uriel's wisdom and grace. Ultimately, the figure of Uriel calls us to embark on our own journey of discovery and awakening, to seek out the hidden treasures of wisdom that lie buried within the depths of our being. By invoking the guidance and protection of this radiant archangel, we open ourselves to the possibility of direct encounter with the divine mystery, the ineffable source of all knowledge and understanding. As we navigate the labyrinth of the human condition, let us remember the ever-present light of Uriel, the inner sun that illuminates the path of truth and liberation. May we find in his example the courage and clarity to face our own ignorance and illusions, to pierce the veils of Maya that cloud our perception, and to emerge as radiant vessels of divine wisdom and love. And may we always keep in mind the ultimate purpose of Uriel's revelation, the call to become co-creators and servants of the cosmic plan, to use our knowledge and insight for the healing and upliftment of all beings. For in the end, as Uriel himself might remind us, the greatest wisdom is not a matter of intellectual attainment or esoteric prowess, but rather a quality of the awakened heart, a profound and abiding connection to the source of all life and consciousness. In the somber pantheon of Abrahamic angelology, the figure of Azrael looms as a dark and inscrutable presence, a silent and implacable emissary of the great transition that awaits us all. As the angel of death and the overseer of the departed, Azrael embodies the stark and incontrovertible reality of our mortal condition, the impermanence and fragility of all worldly attachments and desires. The name Azrael itself is enveloped in mystery and ambiguity, with various interpretations ranging from whom God helps to angel of God to helper of God. In Islamic tradition, where Azrael is most prominently featured, he is known as Malak al-Maut, the angel of death, and is sometimes identified with the enigmatic figure of Israel, the great cosmic recorder who writes the destinies of all creatures in the indelible ink of divine decree. According to Islamic belief, Azrael is one of the 4 archangels who stand closest to the throne of Allah, along with Gabriel, Mikael, Michael, and Israfil, Raphael, while the other 3 archangels are associated with the more benevolent aspects of divine providence, such as revelation, healing, and resurrection. Azrael is tasked with the somber duty of separating the soul from the body at the moment of death, guiding it through the perilous passage of the afterlife. In this capacity, Azrael is often depicted as a terrifying and imposing figure, a grim reaper whose presence strikes fear and trembling into the hearts of mortals. With his countless eyes and tongues, his vast wings that stretch across the horizons, and his implacable gaze that penetrates the depths of the soul, Azrael is the ultimate reminder of the inescapable fate that awaits us all, the great equalizer that levels the distinctions of rank and fortune. Yet despite his fearsome reputation, Azrael is not a malevolent or sadistic being, but rather a dutiful and compassionate servant of the divine will. In Islamic tradition, Azrael is said to visit each person 40 days before their appointed time, gently preparing them for the inevitable transition and offering them a final chance to make amends and attain redemption. Moreover, Azrael is also seen as a protector and guide for the souls of the faithful, escorting them through the trials and tribulations of the grave and the day of judgment, and ultimately delivering them to the gates of paradise. In this sense, Azrael is not merely an agent of death and destruction, but also a facilitator of transformation and liberation, a midwife of the soul's birth into the eternal realms. This understanding of Azrael as a psychopomp and initiator is further developed in the esoteric and mystical traditions of Islam, particularly in the writings of the great Sufi masters. Here, Azrael is often invoked as a symbol of the spiritual death and rebirth that lies at the heart of the mystical path, the annihilation of the ego and the illumination of the divine presence within. For the Sufi adept, the encounter with Azrael represents the ultimate test of surrender and detachment, the willingness to relinquish all that is fleeting and illusory in order to attain union with the beloved. By embracing the reality of death and impermanence, by facing the angel of transition with courage and equanimity, the mystic opens themselves to the possibility of true and lasting liberation, the realization of the deathless self that abides beyond the veil of appearances. This theme of Azrael as a catalyst for spiritual awakening and transformation is also found in certain strands of Jewish mystical tradition, particularly in the Kabbalistic literature of medieval and early modern times. Here, Azrael is sometimes identified with the angel Metatron, the great celestial scribe and intermediary who guides the soul through the labyrinth of the afterlife and reveals the secrets of the divine realm. In this capacity, Azrael Metatron is seen as a master of the art of transition and metamorphosis, the one who holds the keys to the mystery of death and rebirth. By invoking his presence and guidance, the Kabbalistic adept seeks to navigate the perilous passage between the worlds, to die to the old self and be born anew in the light of divine wisdom and love. Ultimately, the figure of Azrael confronts us with the inescapable reality of our own mortality, the stark and sobering truth that all that is born must also pass away. Yet in confronting this truth with courage and clarity, in surrendering to the inevitable with grace and trust, we may also discover a deeper and more abiding reality, the immortal essence that lies hidden within the heart of our being. As we navigate the challenges and uncertainties of our earthly sojourn, let us remember the ever-present hand of Azrael, the silent and compassionate guide who walks beside us on the path of life and death. May we find in his example the strength and the surrender to face our own fears and attachments, to let go of all that binds us to the world of illusion, and to embrace the great adventure of the soul's journey home. And may we always keep in mind the ultimate significance of Azrael's ministry, the call to live each moment as if it were our last, to cherish the precious gift of life and love while we still have breath, and to prepare ourselves with diligence and devotion for the great crossing that awaits us all. For in the end, as Azrael himself might whisper in our ear, the secret of a good death is a life well lived, a heart that is free and fearless, and a spirit that is ever ready to take flight into the vast and luminous expanse of the divine. In the grand tapestry of Abrahamic angelology, the themes of death and the afterlife loom large, weaving a complex and often paradoxical pattern of hope and fear, mystery and revelation. For the great monotheistic traditions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the reality of death is not merely a biological fact, but a profound spiritual and existential challenge, a liminal space where the boundary between the known and the unknown, the temporal and the eternal, becomes fluid and permeable. It is in this context that the angelic realm takes on a particular significance as the intermediaries and guides who accompany the soul on its journey through the labyrinth of the afterlife. In the Jewish tradition, the concept of the afterlife has undergone a complex evolution, from the shadowy and uncertain realm of Sheol in the Hebrew Bible to the more developed notions of resurrection and immortality in the later rabbinic and Kabbalistic literature. Throughout this evolution, however, the role of the angels as the emissaries and agents of the divine will has remained a constant theme. In the Talmudic and Midrashic literature, for example, we find numerous references to the angel of death, the fearsome and implacable figure who separates the soul from the body at the moment of death. This angel, sometimes identified with the archangel Samael, is portrayed as a terrifying and merciless being, armed with a fiery sword and a bitter poison that severs the cord of life. Yet even in these grim and forbidding depictions, there is also a note of compassion and redemption. According to one Midrashic tradition, the angel of death is required to obtain divine permission before carrying out his duty, and is often moved to tears by the pleas and supplications of the righteous. Moreover, the moment of death is also seen as a moment of great spiritual potential, a final opportunity for repentance and purification before the soul stands in judgment before the heavenly court. This theme of the afterlife as a realm of judgment and accountability is further developed in the Islamic tradition, where the angels play a central role in the unfolding of the eschaton. According to Islamic eschatology, the soul of the deceased is met by the angels Munkar and Nakir, the stern and implacable interrogators who question the individual about their faith and deeds in the world. Depending on the answers given, the soul may experience a foretaste of either the bliss of paradise or the torments of hell, a liminal state known as the barzakh or interworld that precedes the final resurrection and judgment. Here, the angels serve as the agents of divine justice and mercy, meting out rewards and punishments according to the measure of each soul's righteousness and sincerity. Yet even in the face of these daunting prospects, the Islamic tradition also emphasizes the possibility of redemption and intercession, the hope that the infinite compassion of God may yet triumph over the strict demands of justice. This hope is embodied in the figure of the angel Ridwan, the gentle and smiling guardian of paradise, who welcomes the righteous soul into the garden of eternal delights. In the Christian tradition, the afterlife takes on a particularly vivid and dramatic character, informed by the central mystery of the resurrection of Christ. For Christian believers, death is not the end, but rather a passage to a new and glorious mode of existence, a transformation of the corruptible into the incorruptible, the mortal into the immortal. This transformation is often depicted in terms of a great cosmic battle, a showdown between the forces of light and darkness, life and death. At the center of this battle stands the figure of Christ himself, the divine human savior who descends into the underworld to liberate the captive souls of the righteous, and who rises triumphant over the powers of sin and death. In this context, the angels are seen as the heralds and ministers of Christ's victory, the celestial warriors who fight alongside the saints and martyrs in the great struggle for the salvation of the world. The archangel Michael, in particular, is invoked as the defender of the faithful and the vanquisher of the demonic hordes, the captain of the heavenly hosts who casts down the dragon of chaos and evil. Yet even in the midst of this apocalyptic drama, the Christian tradition also speaks of a more intimate and personal encounter with the angelic realm, a tender and consoling presence that accompanies the soul in its passage through the valley of the shadow of death. This presence is often associated with the figure of the guardian angel, the gentle and watchful companion who guides and protects the individual throughout their earthly life, and who stands beside them in the hour of their passing. In the medieval Christian imagination, the moment of death was often depicted as a great contest or wager between the forces of heaven and hell, with the angels and demons vying for the possession of the departing soul. In this high-stakes game of cosmic chess, the guardian angel served as the advocate and intercessor for the individual, pleading their case before the court of divine justice and mercy. Ultimately, however, the destiny of the soul was seen to rest in the hands of God alone, the sovereign and inscrutable judge who weighs the merits and demerits of each life in the balance of eternal wisdom and love. This conviction is beautifully expressed in the ancient liturgical prayer of the Requiem Mass, which invokes the mercy and clemency of Christ in the face of the soul's inevitable reckoning. Deliver me, O Lord, from death eternal on that fearful day, when the heavens and the earth shall be moved, when thou shalt come to judge the world by fire. I am made to tremble, and I fear, till the judgment be upon us, and the coming wrath, when the heavens and the earth shall be moved. That day, day of wrath, calamity and misery, day of great and exceeding bitterness, when thou shalt come to judge the world by fire. As we contemplate the profound mysteries of death and the afterlife, the angelic realm stands as a powerful symbol of the hope and the challenge that confront us all. In the face of the great unknown that lies beyond the veil of mortality, the angels serve as the emissaries and guardians of a higher reality, a transcendent dimension of meaning and purpose that beckons us ever onward. At the same time, the angels also challenge us to confront the deeper questions of our own existence, to understand the ultimate significance of our choices and actions in the world. They remind us that our lives are not merely a random or futile play of chance, but rather a sacred trust and responsibility, a precious gift that is ours to steward and fulfill. As we navigate the uncertain terrain of our own mortality, let us draw strength and inspiration from the example of the angels, those luminous beings who bridge the gap between the finite and the infinite, the temporal and the eternal. May we find in their presence a source of comfort and guidance, a light that illumines the darkness and points the way home. And may we always keep in mind the ultimate promise and the ultimate challenge of the angelic realm, the call to live each moment in the awareness of its eternal significance, to shape our lives in accordance with the highest and noblest aspirations of the human spirit. For in the end, as the great spiritual traditions all affirm, the true measure of a life well lived is not the length of our days or the accumulation of our possessions, but rather the depth and quality of our love, the courage and generosity of our service, and the fidelity and surrender of our hearts to the one who is the source and summit of all existence.